Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Ask a Scientist Gaming, where we combine mediocre gameplay with expert science. I'm Ken Hansen, Associate Professor in the Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry at Florida State University. I'm a photochemist slash photophysicist, means I shine light on molecules and hope they do something useful, or at least try to understand what they're doing so you can use them for something useful. But more importantly, joining me today is Dr. Arienne Ferchaud. Arienne, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm super stoked to be here. My name is Arienne Ferchaud. I'm an assistant professor in the School of Communication at Florida State, and my expertise is in social science approaches to how we process new and emerging media technologies, particularly with entertainment. So totally different planet from Ken, but it's always fun to meet people who are doing way different stuff. So
we are bridging the gap right now as we speak, bridging both our expertise, actually, which is pretty spectacular. What do you usually teach?
I teach classes in mass media and society, kind of in multiple different areas, as well as statistics, weirdly. So
statistics are important.
Yeah.
All right, equally important, what game are we starting with?
We're starting with Civilization 6.
Civilization 6. One of the more modern games we play on stream. This was what, 2015, 2016, something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
All right, let's do it.
All right. I am not going to be good at this, but it's fun, so.
Yeah, I was going to say, if it makes you feel any better, nobody comes to the stream for the game.
Yeah. Okay, so always the first thing is like, who are you going to be?
Yeah, this is intriguing.
Yeah, I had when I play Civ 5, I always am Catherine because she can marry people and then put them into the empire that way.
Yeah.
But she's not in this one, so I'm always like, let's see. I think I want to do like I always try to do a military battle or a military victory. So I'm gonna try to find somebody who's militarily good. Let's see. Okay, so he's got additional military policy. Yeah, okay, we'll go with him. Frederick Barbarossa.
Sounds good. I'm sure this says something profound about you. What it is, I don't know. We'll leave it to the psychologist to analyze.
Yeah. Okay, so the map, there's different maps that you can do. I am probably just gonna do something random. There's probably like some strategy to which map you should do, but
no worries.
And I'm gonna do kind of like a standard size map so that it gives me enough room to breathe.
Yeah, we don't strategy here. Mostly button mashing.
Yeah.
The great beasts of the Stone Age.
All right, equally important, what are we drinking tonight?
Tonight we got my favorite, which is a Cuba Libre, which is a kind of a fancy way to say a rum and coke, with just like a splash of lime.
Yeah, I learned the lime is what makes the difference, apparently. That's what makes it a Cuba Libre.
Yeah.
We're using a El Dorado 3-year rum, so.
All right. Okay. I'm not new to Civilization or Civ 6. I don't know how to make her go away, though. There's no X.
Maybe escape? You don't have a choice.
I guess I have to deal with this.
Mature.
Okay. All right. So, so first we're going to pick where we're going to go. By a river is always good. Is this a river over here? Yeah, I'm going to go over here.
So for the people that haven't played this, what's the general goal? It's real-time strategy.
So turn-based strategy. So the goal is to rule the world, basically. So you're playing against other civilizations, all of whom have different leaders. The different leaders have different benefits based on how you're trying to win. I am notorious for trying to win through battle strength, and I never win. But there's other ways to do it. So there's like science victories where you do the most science, which maybe I should have done. That would have been thematically appropriate.
Yeah.
Or you could do like a culture victory. You could do one where you get far enough along that you can form the UN, and the UN votes for you to win. That's tough to do. So a lot of them are kind of hard to do, but the battle one is straightforward, and you just know exactly what you're doing. So
And you said it's turn-based.
it is turn-based. So in the background, they have all these other civilizations happening. Once you meet them, you'll kind of see what they're doing. But
I see.
we haven't yet.
So a turn is one action or like time interval or?
So it depends on how many units you have. Each unit can do an action typically.
I see.
So
This is closer to the game Risk then.
yeah, kind of.
Okay.
So let's see. We'll do.
Yeah, I never did Civilization. I did some Age of Empires.
Oh, I used to really love that game. Man, I really do like that game.
Yeah. The Age of Empires 2 was the one that I really got into.
Yeah.
So do you progress through time as a society, like technology
Yes.
develop? Okay.
So it's based on like the research that you do. You research different technologies, and in doing so, you progress through the ages. So let me see if I can see if you look at the technology tree, there's like all these things. And so once you get to a certain point, you're considered in the classical era, and then in the medieval era. But the problem that can happen sometimes, especially if you just listen to the advisors, is that they're like, do this next, then that, and they'll like lead you down a path where it's unbalanced. So you'll wind up like in the industrial era, but you're not bronze working yet. So,
You're really good at making shirts.
yeah.
That's not helping you in warfare.
Yeah.
That's all.
So,
And the map just, it's fogged out until you explore.
Yeah.
And you get a visual. That's pretty fun. Man, I saw there's an add-on for Google Maps that does something similar. If you haven't been to a place, you can't see it. It's like blurred out.
oh man. Look, so we've met somebody. So Hojo Tokimune of Japan. He's speaking Japanese. So, okay. Would you like to sample our nearby city? So then we'll know where his city is. So he's probably got scouts sent out somewhere, and that's how he found us. But that gave us a boost.
You got friends.
I mean, it says I have friends, but I don't see them on the map.
Till you attack him.
Yeah, I don't even know how he found us. I don't even see any of his people or anything. I don't know. Ah, there he is. That's his people right there. Hopefully he doesn't attack because I just sent my people away. I'm just in the back. The early game is kind of slow because it's a little bit like you have to. Oh, see, these are barbarians. That's not good.
No, we're content starting out slow. Let's let you settle in. Give you some time before hammering you with questions.
Okay.
I mean, thankfully, these types of games, they're much more conducive to casual discussion.
Yeah.
Pigs. Dogs look up.
So I've got animal husbandry. That's exciting.
So that's a technology landmark.
Yeah. So I always try to do it really balanced, because that helps later on. But also, I don't know. Like I said, this is a real-time strategy game, and I have very little strategy when I'm playing it. So I'm just always doing something, hoping for the best. Okay, I'm gonna do a scout.
So you have to like harvest things too?
Yeah, but it does it pretty automatically.
Okay.
And it's not, so it's unlike something like, oh, I don't have irrigation, so I can't do that. So maybe that was a waste of my time to build him because I don't have the necessary things yet. But yeah, so the builders just kind of do all that in the background. In earlier versions of Civ, like in Civ 5, it was a lot more like, no, you need to do this over here and this and that. And it was a lot more, what's the word? Like, oh, they sent me a gift. Thanks. That's probably a bad idea, but so I was like, we're being friends.
Yeah, here comes the Trojan horse.
Yeah.
We've learned nothing from history.
Yeah.
So how, in terms of display, how important is the stuff I'm covering on the screen?
It's just the map, and then kind of.
I can move us out of the way a little bit.
Well, I think we're okay because what's happening here is just like. Yeah.
People see.
Yeah. So it's just mostly what I'm doing over here is coming up over here anyway, I think.
Okay.
Okay, so
Don't want to frustrate any of the viewers that are really into civilization.
yeah, yeah.
So I'm just gonna rage. You'd be surprised. Sometimes we get elite gamers in chat.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. I'll do urban planning, so that gives me more production in the city. And then I guess I'll do both of these since I have 2 slots. So, all right, cool. Our policy agenda is set. Oh, okay, so they can farm. Okay, we'll send them over here to farm.
All right, so you've had 10 minutes to settle in. It is time.
Okay.
So for me, I'm a chemist. I work with molecules and materials. I measure samples all the time. You work in a very different domain. And obviously, your data sets are very different. The things that you study, the data you analyze. I mean, so just giving an overview, like, what do you look at? What information do you acquire to compile a hypothesis or some idea or some explanation of a phenomenon? Where do you start?
Yeah, I would say primarily starting off, I'm more a social scientist, right, than I guess, quote unquote, hard science. And so what that means for me is that oftentimes, we're studying people, and people don't behave uniformly, or they don't always behave in the same way. That's the same thing as uniformly. They don't always behave as you would expect. So that's a challenge because, I think in something like with chemistry, you're like, yeah, okay, this is how it works. And if we do that, this is going to happen. Whereas with people, oftentimes you're like, okay, I'm pretty sure this is going to happen. But then you find out real quick otherwise. So that sort of approach, I think, is fun because you are always kind of a little bit surprised at what's going on. But so typically, like how I would get data, right, is to bring people in the lab, or sometimes we do online studies as well, where we're asking them to do something and then seeing how they react. So
I see. It's observational.
yeah, well, it's often self-report, because observational can be tough too, because you have to, like, you gotta get on the same page. I say that, oh, this person is clearly, being mean, and somebody else is like, no, they're not. So observational can be a challenge. Self-report, obviously, also very challenging because people sometimes will not know, or they won't understand, what you're asking of them. So, for example, if I'm looking at moral decision making, which is something I quite often am looking at, we might ask people to come play a game in lab, and then they'll answer some questionnaire that we can use to kind of get at that idea. So typically that's how we operate. Sometimes we'll do some other things, like in communication in particular, we have this method called content analysis, where we are just looking at content and people aren't a part of it. So, maybe looking at, there's some content analysis of video games, for example, that look at how men and women are portrayed differently.
Oh, I see. The actual.
Yeah, and it's still quantified and systematic, but it's just kind of a different way.
So who were you fighting earlier? Was it these guys?
They were just barbarians.
Just random barbarians.
That's literally what they're called. It's just barbarians. Yeah.
This is just random cave trolls out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Historically accurate.
I think he just was mean to me because my people don't do Bushido or something. Okay.
Oh, you just got judged.
I did, I think.
You classless heathen. You don't do Bushido.
Okay, there's a way. I know that there's a way to know. Okay, list of reports. Gossip, maybe? No, there's a way to know what the other people think about you, and if they've said mean stuff about you. Okay, we're neutral. So.
Not good, not bad. We'll take it.
Yeah.
All right, so you have people come in. You can observe them playing. They can have self-reported data sets. So you just send out a email or an advertisement that says we need X number of people of some demographic.
We could do it that way. Thankfully, in the School of Comm, we have a subject pool.
I see.
So we're able to get sort of built-in participants that way. which is nice. That also is challenging though, because they're all students.
I
And
see.
so sometimes students don't necessarily translate to other groups. Although I read a study, I didn't read it yet. I saw it on Twitter, that they did a study of studies and found that student participants weren't significantly worse than general population, which was great news. But I haven't had the chance to read that yet.
That's interesting. I mean, it's intrinsically a biased data set, but the question is how much. And they're saying
Yes.
it's not bad.
And yeah, of course there is bias, but it's
State neighbors have made a request.
so we've met a city state and they're asking us for something, but I didn't look at it before she stopped talking, so that was my bad.
Reese's Pieces, welcome back to the stream. Their comment is, love Civilization, many memories of fighting barbarians in late game with my B-52s.
Oh yeah, the barbarians only only progress a certain amount,
They're just
and so
clubbing away.
you're like, you have nukes and they're still trying to fight you with pikes and stuff.
That's awesome.
My builders really don't have much to do. I should not have built builders.
No worries. That's amazing. Poor barbarians are just stuck in the Stone Age.
They are.
All right, so the observational stuff is intriguing. So you pick a class of game or a particular game, and you do just a meta-analysis of content. And what
Usually mean like the content analysis type
Yeah,
approach.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's another thing that I'm trying to work through my brain how to do one now, and I haven't figured it out yet. Because what's challenging about doing content analysis of something like a video game is the method is designed for really like text based stuff.
Yeah.
So I just want you to just chill. That's what I want you to do. So they, I'm gonna put him to sleep so he can actually do something. Thought there was a button to just like let this dude roam. Yeah, there we go. Automate exploration.
Yeah.
We've met someone.
If you want any advice, I'm sure chat will offer. If not, that was always my strategy. Get tanks as quickly as possible and run over everyone else's spearmen and knights. Speed run technology.
Try my best. All right, go away. I don't leave me alone. No. All right, there we go. Yeah, so originally when people start doing content analysis, they're doing it on like text, newspapers, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which is still challenging in some ways, but it's less complicated. Whereas something like a video game introduces so much extra stuff because you have to analyze not only the text of the thing, but also things like tone, things like audio visual stuff, things like interactivity that you don't have to deal with in like a newspaper article. So it can be a challenge. And so like one of the things that I'm sort of grappling with at the moment is trying to figure out a way to analyze choice in video games, and how complex choices are and how much they matter and things like that. And I'm at a loss. I don't know. I've been talking about it with some folks, and
Writing.
I mean,
it's a challenge.
so before even starting that, you have to define some kind of parameter space and like
Yeah.
different descriptors for these various, like that's,
Yes. So
and you get
it's
halfway through and you might be wrong on how
Yeah.
you defined it.
yeah. So when starting off with the content analysis, you have to be so thoughtful about how you're getting this content and how you're defining content and what you're actually analyzing. And it's really challenging.
Yeah, no, it definitely sounds like it. And so that's something you manually do. You're watching through graduate students are documenting in real time.
So there's a few different ways to do it. There are some softwares that can help you out. You can do it probably with R and Python. Or you can do it manually. The benefit of the manual one is that you can get more nuanced. Whereas the I'm gonna build a campus right here. I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about?
The content analysis methods.
Oh yeah. So the computer-based ones tend to do kind of like a sort of sentiment analysis type thing, which is tough to do with video games as well. I had a friend, one of my colleagues. She did a study on story shapes, and she was looking at movies.
Yeah.
And that movies, of course, are very challenging. So what they wound up doing was looking at the scripts, but then you do lose out on everything that's not on the script.
Yeah.
Right? So
That was a Kurt Vonnegut thing, right? The shape of stories and how the
I
arcs
think
up
so.
and down.
Yeah.
No, that's a fun analysis. I mean, so movies have an inherent advantage though, because they're linear and they're the same every single time.
Yes.
So video game analysis, you're an infinitely branching chain of outcomes.
Yes.
and you're trying to wrestle that into quantifiable space.
I'm imagining trying to analyze something like Red Dead Redemption 2. An enormous game. Just scope wise is huge.
Yeah.
There's like all these different things you can do, all these choices to make, even on a micro, like how do you determine a choice? Is it only like, it has to be sufficiently large, but then how do you determine what that means? And
Yeah.
it's challenging, but I want to do it. I just got to figure out a way.
I mean, so presumably people have done this in the past on like simpler games, right? Like, I mean,
Yes.
Frogger, you could do this type of analysis, presumably, right?
I think what a lot of people wind up doing is analyzing the stuff around the game. So either, so one thing that you'll see sometimes when people are doing this kind of analysis is they will play it, or like have some grad students play it or something, and then video it and analyze the video.
I see.
That's one way to do it. It does lock out some stuff. Like if you make a decision that leads you down a branching path, then you're going to miss that other path. But it is one way that I've seen. I've also seen people do stuff like analyze. One thing that we did actually, and I haven't done anything with this study because I'm not happy with it yet, but we analyzed reviews of games. And we looked at critical reviews and player reviews, trying to get at some things. But the problem with that is that you're really sort of constrained to what people write about in reviews, which is not always what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So that kind of, content analysis is really tough. Oh man, he's dunking on me again. How can you let those barbarians run amok so close to your home? Look, man, I'm not good at this game. That's how.
I love games that talk shit to you. Add insult to injury.
Totally dunking on me.
I mean, so you do an analysis of a game. I mean, even if it works out perfectly, like how broadly impactful is that? Like, does it apply to a certain genre, or is it like, how does the community at large use that?
That's very much really the question, right? So, in an ideal world, if you're doing everything properly and doing all your statistics just right, you might be able to say, yeah, this is generalizable. And this can be applied to, very broadly.
Yeah.
That's tough to do because it's like, is it going to apply to AAA games and indie games?
Yeah.
Because those are, as we know, very different sometimes. And so I think it's about good study design, because once you start a content analysis, you can't really change it.
Yeah.
A quantitative one, at least. There are some people in communication that do qualitative methods, which are much more in depth, but less generalizable. And they do, they're not trying to be generalizable, so that's not their goal.
Yeah.
So that is challenging when you're doing it, sort of trying to be generalizable, trying to figure out, because how do you compare a game? Like I said Red Dead Redemption earlier. If we're comparing Red Dead to Civilization, that's really different, right? Or to Mario Kart or something like that. Like it's tricky.
Yeah. I mean, this is just an emerging field now too, right? Games have only started getting respect in academia fairly recently.
Yeah, I would say that's true.
I mean, I had this conversation with if you know Julian Grasso from College of Music, she does music theory, but does it as applied to games. And so like her thesis was on the music from Final Fantasy IV.
Oh,
And
okay.
that's a very emerging field, right? Because
Oh,
mostly
yeah.
they're studying Beethoven and classical music and all sorts of stuff, and she comes in with Final Fantasy IV. And so that was a discussion we had as well. Because it is, I mean, what people don't appreciate it was 2002 or 3 when video games passed music and movie as the most financially profitable industry. Like in terms of total sales, video games far surpassed it a long time ago. But it's not necessarily acknowledged as that.
Victoria, Queen of the United Kingdom.
We've met Queen Victoria.
Ireland, and soon, dare I say, the Empire.
Okay.
Just mud.
I know. She's okay. Oh man, no, the Japanese people are being unfriendly to me now.
Oh no, turn south.
Yeah, so I think because he's mad at me. Why? Why are we unfriendly?
What did I do to you?
Yeah, like I didn't do anything. Maybe that's why. He's like, you're not doing enough. He did dunk on me a couple of times, so.
Oh, I love it. All right, anyone just joining us, Ask a Scientist Gaming, mediocre gameplay, expert science. Our guest today is Dr. Arienne Ferchaud. She's an expert in media psychology, emerging media, entertainment, narrative theory, and media, studying video games from a communications and technology perspective. If you guys have any questions, feel free to throw those in chat. She would be happy to answer them while she plays Civilization 6. When was the last time you played this?
Oh, it's been a while. I'm not sure. At least a few years, I think.
Yeah. That is a better answer than I usually get. Like, well, it was 1986. Like, that's fair. It's been a while.
It's like that meme from Titanic. It's been 84 years.
Titanic. Oh, man. They just did honest trailers. I don't know if you've seen those on YouTube. They redid Titanic recently.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that was one of their first ones. You really break it down, that's just a terrible story. But
Yeah.
It was entertaining. It's a blockbuster.
It's very much style over substance, that one.
Yeah. All right, so we talked about the complexity of analyzing video games in an academic setting. One of the questions we like to ask people, Althanaut wants to know what we're drinking. Well, the answer is right there in chat, a Cuba Libre.
Yeah.
So it's rum, Coke, and a little bit of lime. So the rum we're using is El Dorado 3-year. So yeah, click on that link if you're interested. Hopefully you're drinking with us. Cheers to everyone that's joining us on a Wednesday night drinking alcohol and playing video games.
This is academia.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're respected professors. This is what we do. Sounds delicious and dangerous. Absolutely it is. You're one of my brave guests. Usually it's like, oh, we'll do beer or wine, but I appreciate the mixed drinks. I like mixing those in.
Yeah, well, we can only do like one, maybe two of these.
Yeah. Well, last week we did... me and Brett did a whole bunch of scotch, and it was a mistake.
No. Oh, no.
I was definitely hungover. Because he was like, I was going to be brave and ask for scotch, but then he asked for just an over beer. I'm like, I have scotch. Let's do it.
Oh, man.
I must say it's more to be drinking on this side of the screen, more fun to be drinking on this side. We are going to have a lot of fun, actually. Make no mistake. 3 hours of drinking and gaming, I will gladly take that.
I can pet my dog? This is new. Hold on.
Althanaut, he is our previous guest. All right, the scotch was good. Thank you for joining us, Althanaut.
Oh my gosh, I cannot believe it lets you pet the dog. Do you know there's like a website called Can You Pet the Dog? And it's about whether you can pet dogs in games. How fun.
That is fun. No.
Oh no.
It's really fun. I'm gonna assume that's Brett because it was the scotch and not the gin we had earlier. I was trying to think which drinks I drank when. But yeah, I love it because I get a sampling of drinks during these streams.
Oh yeah.
All right, Cuddle Puppy just got here. Do you think that media have become properly aware of past stereotypes? Are they trying to flanderize past stereotypes? or are they starting to Flanderize past stereotypes?
Yeah, so Flanderize,
didn't know that
if
was
you
a
don't
thing.
know what that means, is like when you sort of exaggerate
I
these
see.
things to the point where it's like over the top. So it comes from like Ned Flanders in The Simpsons, where he starts off kind of like a reasonable dude and then over time becomes like more and more of this just like sort of buffoon.
Yeah.
So the question is a great question. The answer is not simple, because media is not one thing per se. So it's so diverse in terms of what entertainment we have, that there are certainly some media, certain like TV shows, movies, video games that are great. For example, the first thing that comes to mind is, and it comes to mind because I've done a study with this game. It's called Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, which is designed to simulate psychosis, which is a very, very stigmatized mental illness, right? And so a lot of times when psychosis is portrayed, it's a negative. It's like, this person is like a psycho killer kind of thing, right? But this game breaks down that stereotype because it's just a normal person, right? Who just happens to have this mental illness. On the other hand, you've got games that do a real bad job, right? And really even popular games that we all probably really like. And this is true of games, TV shows, books, movies, all down the line. So I would say there on, like, if I had to say on the whole, is it getting better? I would say certainly so. But there's definitely it's definitely not perfect by any means.
Oh, that's awesome. Brett has played Hellblade. That's fun.
Oh man, there's nothing like bringing a bunch of undergrads into the lab to play that game.
And you just watch them and self-report. That's awesome.
Uh-huh.
I hate how psychopath and person with schizophrenia were historically considered the same.
This is true. There's a lot of mental illness, and reducing stigma against mental illness is something I've been working on a little bit lately. And you are absolutely right. So psychopath, schizophrenia and dissociative identity disorder are more often conflated as well. For a long time, people were like, if you're schizophrenic, then you have multiple personalities, which that's not what that is. Okay. I have a settler. Where can we go? We're gonna go over here. Now this is like on the edge of the world. I'm not sure if that's a good idea, or if I should.
It's protected at least, right?
Yeah. Okay, we'll do that.
I have no idea. Don't take my advice for anything. Well, I've never played this game.
Oh, I've met someone new. Gilgamesh. See, yeah, he's like, they speak the language of the place.
I need to switch my line of research so I can play more games with study participants.
Right.
Me too.
Right.
I love hearing about the things Dr. Arienne is working on.
Yeah, it's well, I'm glad to hear that. I have fun talking about it. So
Yeah.
but yes, you're definitely right that a lot of these mental illnesses were conflated, and a lot of people who do bad things, right, or do violent things, for example, were just that people are like they're mentally ill, and that's a dangerous line of thinking, right? Because it may not be true. Like mentally healthy people can be bad people.
Oh, this is a fun question from Cuddle Puppy. Mm-hmm. Have you seen Everything Everywhere All at Once?
I have, very recently, like more recently than perhaps I should have, because everybody had been like, it's so good, you gotta see it. But I did. I saw it a couple weeks ago, and I loved it. I'm a fan.
That's excellent. I hope it keeps winning awards. Mm-hmm. Let's celebrate genuine creativity and new ideas in art, not rehashed, rebooted, anything.
Oh man, ask me at some point why we like the Avengers in the first place. I tell that to my students. We talk about it at length, why the Avengers are a thing, and it blows their mind.
Oh man, that's fun.
Accept my warmest thanks.
Throw my guess out there. All right, we should do a prediction.
Okay.
Which one do you want to throw up there?
Well, since we just talked about Marvel, you just mentioned it.
Fortnite question?
Yeah, I have to throw Fortnite in there because I play Fortnite with my nephew all the time.
That's awesome.
He's
Family
7,
activity.
and he is not always the best teammate. Sometimes he's great, but a lot of times he's like, I got this hammer, I'm gonna hit you with it so you go flying. And I'm like, yeah, it'd be cooler if you didn't, but...
All right, we're going to throw a prediction up there, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you not familiar, at the top of the chat, there'll be a button that says predict, and you're allowed to pick answers. Normally on Twitch, people use this to predict game outcomes, which we could have done for this. Will you win? Will you stomp the enemy? But
No, I won't.
not in this case. We'd like to do some science questions and trivia questions. And so this one's related to Marvel and Fortnite. So it's going to be our segue to why people like the Avengers.
Oh no, I've been denounced.
So we're going to do a prediction here. You guys are going to have 2 minutes. If you're not following, click the follow button. Use your standard internet units. They're useless, but good for pride. So the question here is a Fortnite related question. How many Marvel skins appear in Fortnite? Or how many have up to this date? How many Marvel skins have appeared in Fortnite? Greater than 40 or less than 40? Note that you are on Ask a Scientist Gaming honor code, so you have to make this prediction without searching on Google and finding the answer. But yeah, put your predictions in there now. But you can use your internet points. They're not totally useless. You can make us take a drink. You can also request a factoid or unlock some emotes. It is totally up to you. Reese's Pieces. I cannot unsee how big the hands are for the historical leaders in this game.
They do. It's a different art style.
It's unhealthily large.
Yeah, because in 5 it wasn't like that. They were more like I don't know, anatomically correct, I suppose.
Yeah. You just went with the always sunny
they made a
Philadelphia.
choice.
Yeah. Chose a style, that's for sure.
I founded Berlin. Look at that.
All right, what's the guess on how many Marvel skins appear in Fortnite? Is it less than 40 or greater than 40? Luckily, they have an infinite number of Marvel characters. The question is, how many
Yeah.
have they ported over to Fortnite? Man, the skins are huge in Fortnite, too. People are all over that. Is that you have to pay for most of them? They're
So there's a combination. So you can pay for. So there's the ones that appear in the locker, or sorry, in the battle pass. And so if you have the battle pass, which you do have to pay for, it's like $9 for
Yeah.
the season, and you just unlock those. But there's also some that come up every day that you could buy. My nephew is real impatient, so he doesn't like to build up V-Bucks himself. He just likes to have the V-Bucks and then spend them.
Yeah, that's fair. Cuddle Puppy, if I saw Fortnite at a bar, I'd start a fight with him. How do you know Fortnite's a him?
Yeah.
Just gendered Fortnite.
Okay, let's...
Fortnite. All right. Arienne, what's the answer? How many Marvel skins appear in Fortnite? Greater than 40 or less than 40?
It is greater than 40.
Oof, everyone knew that.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, we had a dark horse bet that would have paid 102 to 1 had it been less than 40.
It is greater than 40. It's about, last I checked, 49.
So I don't. Does Fortnite have seasons where they do
Yes.
like bulk? Okay, the batch releases and new maps. Okay.
Yeah, so there's like different seasons and chapters. I am not 100% sure what the difference is. I think it's the seasons. When there's a new season, the map is different,
I see.
but it might be chapter. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Wait, does your 7-year-old does he play like online with people, like it's mic'd and you guys can communicate? Or
Yeah,
does
but
that work? It's just with each other.
we only mic up with each other.
Okay.
So he doesn't talk to just random strangers.
I was gonna
'cause
say
that would be bad.
Yeah. No, even early internet, it was terrible. Now it's absolutely
Yeah.
a bloodbath.
So yeah, that's like the rule when we're playing. We just talk to each other.
All right, so we answered a Marvel question. The answer is greater than 40. It's nearing 50. I'm sure it'll continue to increase over time.
Yeah, that I mean, we really might be. That might be old. I don't know. Since last I saw.
I mean, it's at least greater than 40. So, all right. So going back to the question, Cuddle Puppy and Althanaut. I want to know the origin of that name, but we'll get to that later. Why do we like the Avengers in the first place? So Cuddle Puppy has a hypothesis. It illustrates the universe as a binary morality, where there are only people who are good and only people who are bad. I mean, that's most shows, right? Very few nuanced things. My guess is it's adult cartoons.
You guys are overthinking it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's simpler.
The simple answer is because Marvel went broke in the 90s. Okay, so here's the explanation. So Marvel Comics, obviously foremost comics company, in the 90s, they were not doing great. They were hemorrhaging money, and they were like very close to bankruptcy. So they're like, what are we going to do? Right? We got to do something, or we're going to not have a company anymore. So what they did was they sold off the rights to all their A-team, right? So the superheroes that were actually what people were reading at Marvel Comics, they sold off the movie rights. So I don't know if you guys want to guess who that is, but I can tell you, it's the Hulk, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man,
Yep.
and X-Men. Yep.
X-Men.
And so they sold off the rights to all of those, and so they did not have the rights to make those movies. So we see those movies come out, right? And they're pretty good. They go pretty well. But then come 2007 or so, Marvel's like, ooh, but we want to make our own movies now. And we do not have, he just is dunking on me repeatedly. We don't have all our actually good characters. We only have the C team.
Yeah, they went with discount IP and
Yeah, so they're like, I don't know, man. I guess Iron Man. And nobody was like, yes, Iron Man. That's who we should do. That's the best person, Iron Man. Nobody said that. Okay, that was like, that's what we got, I guess.
yeah.
So they make Iron Man. Iron Man is a success. And then they're like, okay, well, let's do this with some other C-list characters. So then like, all right, Thor, all right, Captain America. And then eventually we get to the Avengers and on and on and on. So it's funny because when I ask students, they also say all that. They're like, oh, because the stories are like this. And I'm like, nah, nothing to do with the stories. I mean, maybe a little bit, but
Well, I mean, it has something to do because like DC did not do nearly as well as Marvel, right?
but they did on their standalone like Batman movies, but they just didn't at the time. I mean, superhero movies were kind of just seen as they're just kind of a fad. People don't want to really see superhero movies. And so early 2000s, we start getting, the Spider-Man, X-Men. Fantastic Four doesn't do that well. But it's just kind of this idea that movie execs sometimes are a little bit behind. And so they're like, nobody really cares about superheroes that much. It's not that profitable because it's only going to attract like your superhero geeks or your comic book nerds. And then what they were finding once they started, they get success with Iron Man and all that is that, oh, actually, no, there is something here. But see what DC did, they didn't really go beyond your Superman and your Batmans, which those properties were very profitable for them.
Yeah.
But they didn't really go beyond that. So they're like, yeah, Batman's good. Superman's good. What else do you need? The idea of a cinematic universe was not really a thing at that point. So it's not until Marvel starts. And so what they do is they do it gradually. They have the Iron Man movie, then they have the Incredible Hulk, which does all right. Then they do Thor, then Captain America, I think. And so they do them one at a time. And then they realize, okay, now we can actually do Avengers and put them together. Because that idea of a crossover was also not a thing before that.
I mean, I liked Iron Man because it was a very human character. Like, sure, super brilliant, super intelligent. It's hard to be sympathetic or relate to something like Superman, who's just God.
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
how do you make a reasonable bad guy or some kind of internal conflict you have to deal with? And it's him struggling to not act like God in public. Like, that's such a lazy.
Superman has never been my favorite.
Yeah.
Of the DC characters, Batman, obvious. I mean, I always have had a nice soft spot for Batman, even though if he was real, we would all hate him.
Yeah.
He's just like this rich billionaire who beats up homeless people.
Yeah, who was the comedian that ranted about it? Because he doesn't go after like the corporate crime or anything.
Of course not, 'cause that's him.
Individual, yeah, exactly.
And then you note though, anytime they hint at like corporate shenanigans, he never has anything to do with it.
Yeah.
Even though he's a billionaire.
Exactly, he's not shady at all.
Bronze
Oh
is the
man,
mirror
who was the
of
comedian? I think it was the one that died fairly recently, the last couple of years. What the hell was his name? It's an amazing rant because it was just like Batman is just a low-level thug, right? Just beating up people on the
Basically.
streets, right? He's not going after actual crime. He's going after petty things that don't matter in the grand scheme of things.
Right. Because, I mean, yeah, he does have like the rogues gallery or whatever, but mostly he just beats up randos on the street.
Yeah.
The ascent to the highest story is by
I bet
stairs,
built the Hanging
and
Gardens
their
of
side
Babylon.
water engines, by means of which persons.
Speaking of which, did you see the new Flash trailer?
I did, and I'm mad because it looks like it's going to be Flashpoint, and I really like Flashpoint.
Yeah.
But Ezra Miller, man,
Oh man, Debbie and I said that right after we watched it. We're like, so he's a scumbag and all, but I'm intrigued. Like I want to watch.
yeah. So I don't know how much you know about Flashpoint, but it's one of it's maybe the most famous Flash story, and it has the potential to be so good.
Yeah.
And the thing is that Ezra Miller is also a good actor, and it's like, oh, this is probably going to be good, and I'm going to feel bad about it.
Yeah. I mean, if it makes you feel any better, look at any historical artwork or music, and
Yeah.
it's like, yep. Oh, sorry, John Lennon was a scumbag.
He was.
All right. Same thing with a lot of historical figures. So it goes. But you have to weigh that in your moral compass, obviously.
Yeah.
Ezra Miller has undone 100 years of the LGBTQ community.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but yeah, no, he's definitely problematic.
He's very, very, very.
Cuddle puppy. Iron Man 1 would not work today because he's basically Elon Musk.
That is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, worse. It's kind of a sign or an emblem of the time because he starts off as an arms dealer, and we were all like, okay,
Yeah.
fine with that. I mean, he does change his mind later, but I think today, if you were like an arms dealer, then automatically we would be like, eh.
Yeah. No, different time and place. And it's amazing too. When did that come out? That was
07 or 08, I think.
wow.
Sometimes the wheel turns slowly, but it turns.
Let's get up the whole timeline. Watch them chronologically.
Oh man, if you've got time to kill.
Iron Man was 2008. Incredible Hulk also 2008. Iron Man 2 2010. Thor 2011. Captain America 2011. Marvel's First Avengers 2012. So yeah, that was phase 1.
Gorgo.
That's interesting. It was driven by the IP they had available. I mean, if you have the more less known characters, I mean, at least you get an origin story. Like, how many times can we see Spider-Man born? Like,
I mean, and that's very much, I think, why. Obviously, it's a confluence of things. Nothing is quite as simple as that, but you have to do an origin story for
Yeah.
these characters because nobody knows who they are.
yeah. I mean, that's it's an intrinsically built-in nice storyline. All right, Cuddle Puppy, can we talk about how biologically idiotic Thanos' plan was to eliminate half of all living creatures? All this would do was force endangered species into genetic bottlenecks in favor of dominant species.
Yeah,
Alternative point, he could have just doubled the resources available.
he could have. I think, I've read some stuff about this, right? And Thanos is. It is one of those things where while you're watching the movie, you're like, man, Thanos, he's kind of right. And then you think about it actually, and you're like, wait, no, it's dumb. And part of it is as they were adapting it, they changed his motivation. So in the comic books, the reason he decides to, it's more stupid and also better in the comics because in the comics, the reason he's like trying to get rid of half the people is because he really has a crush on death. and she will not speak to him. Literally, she won't speak to him. And so he's like, I know it'll get her attention if I kill half of everything. And so then the funniest part about it is that he does. And then she's like, oh no, now you're too powerful for me.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
She just didn't like him.
Yeah, that was just the excuse. And he got the Infinity Stones just to get a date.
Yeah. And he's not as smart in the comics, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, like, his reasoning was, I mean, off the wall and everything, but at least you appreciated he had a goal. Like, he was a well-defined bad guy that you could root against. So, like,
and then also, one thing to remember about it is that he was already genocidal before he got the stones.
Yeah.
Like, his original plan was genocide. Like, that was plan A. He didn't go, plan A, let's conserve some resources. No.
Yeah.
Plan A was genocide. So it's just kind of justified later.
yeah. No. He had goals. He had it written on his dream board. Date death. That's amazing. I didn't know the backstory on that.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's both stupid and better.
I mean, so have you looked into any of the comic book translation to video games? Is that...
I haven't. I've thought about some stuff with adaptation a little bit. Like, for example, I am working on a book. I'm co-editing a book, or editing a book on the Umbrella Academy, which is an adaptation of comic book. Yes,
written by the lead singer of
My Chemical Romance.
My Chemical Romance. That dude's like 35. And he has a very
he's
successful
older than
band.
he is.
He?
Much older than that now. I don't think he's like 35 in the My Chemical Romance.
Yeah.
days.
But he's a very successful musician, and he wrote Umbrella Academy. I'm like, I hate your broad skill set.
Umbrella Academy, the comic book, real weird.
Oh, is
very
it?
surreal. In a different way. We are true friends with the smaller civilizations. We appreciate that you recognize this fact. I feel like I just got dissed, like a backhanded compliment.
Yeah, no, it's complisalt.
Yeah.
Tiny civilization.
Yeah, I think though that with regards to, I love Umbrella Academy first of all, but adaptation is tricky because things that work in one medium don't work in other mediums. Like, how do you be, trying to think of like a weird Marvel character. Sometimes it just doesn't translate well. Like X-Men, for example, is hard to translate to video games because, first of all, X-Men storylines tend to be about, they tend to actually be pretty deep
Yeah,
in
it's
a way.
like interpersonal conflict and not just
Oh, shoot.
ultra-violence.
Now she's mad at me. She was just nice to me, and now she's mad. Says I'm a coward.
She also wants to date death.
Maybe so.
It's all coming together.
But yes, so, some things don't translate, right? And if we think like Umbrella Academy, trying to translate that to TV would be weird, I think, because it is a very surreal comic book if you've read it. Although the show is pretty surreal too, so
Yeah.
the show is as surreal as it is, much more realistic than the comics. So adaptation is tricky, I think, but I kind of want to do some more stuff on it. Just haven't yet.
Well, it kind of lends itself to like a cross-platform apples to apples or pseudo apples to apples. How can you tell that narrative? But yeah, how do you even... You have many variables to deal with.
Yes.
Gerard Way is like 45. That's fair. He was like 35 when he wrote it, right?
I think so,
It was
yeah.
Something like that. Might be where I remember from. All right, going back to Cuddle Puppy's question, what are your best media portrayals of mental illness? What are the worst?
Oh, man. Well, I mentioned Hellblade already. I think that is one of the best that I've seen. That's in video games. And, man... like sometimes you get something in your brain and you can't think of anything else. Like Hellblade is definitely one. I've heard, though I haven't fact checked this in any way, that Legion is actually not bad, even though Legion is weird because so the idea of Legion, for those of you who are like, what are you talking about? Is that it's actually an X-Men character who he's like a super powerful, super powerful telepath, and so he hears voices, but it's other people, but he doesn't know, right? He and all the people around him just kind of think that he's mentally ill. But I've heard that it's actually not a bad representation. I've seen Legion, some of it, like the first season at least, but it's been a while. So there, oh my gosh, there was something. You know what I read? Moon Knight, which I'm repping today. The show I've read is pretty good at representing dissociative identity disorder. Of course, that's also based on a comic book. I don't know. I've read 0 Moon Knight comics, so. But I've just read that that's also a pretty good one.
Yeah, so an interesting factoid I learned fairly recently is that, like, schizophrenia, I mean, you hear voices in your head or some facsimile of that. It's only in America that the voices are really negative. Every other culture, it's not as negative of a voice. Yeah,
it does tend to be really cultural, from what I understand, that in some cultures, the voices are very helpful, very positive. And I don't think it's just America, but some other Western countries, the voices are scary.
I mean, that's it's an intriguing manifestation of something on a cultural level, which is profound to me. Like, why does that? I mean, it's a similar mental disorder, but manifests in very different ways.
Yeah.
Man, so what are negative portrayals of mental illness?
Negative ones.
I mean, you could go back to any TV show from the 50s or 60s and it's going to be bad.
There are so many bad ones that it's almost like, how do you pick one? Negative ones. Off the top of my head, I'm not picking up on ones right off the top of my head. I know that there's this new show out, and I have not seen it, I gotta say. But it's called, I think, The Patient. And I don't know that it's necessarily a negative portrayal, but it certainly could be potentially stigmatizing, because it's this idea that, you know, Steve Carell's a therapist and his patient is like kidnaps him and stuff. So I haven't seen it, so it's hard to say. That's just like the first thing that came to my mind, though.
All right, we're about an hour in. Do you want to keep playing? Do you want to change games?
Yeah, we can change games. I don't feel like I've made any progress.
You've explored a lot.
I have explored a lot, but the Japanese guy's mad at me.
Yeah.
And then the Greek lady, first she was like, "Oh, I like you. You're a small civilization." And then she was like, "Yeah, you suck." So.
I mean, how long do these games typically take?
Well, we're at turn 100 of 500. So it doesn't necessarily stop at 500. It can go beyond that. But
I see. But that's not unusual to go to 500.
No, not at all. So yeah, we can play something else.
All right.
This can.
It's up to you. What do you want to do?
Yeah, let me save it though.
All right.
So I'll play it some more later.
Exactly. Let me know how it turns out.
I will. Okay, it's a desktop.
Yeah, we'll just turn to the talking heads.
Yeah, while we get the next thing up here. Okay, let's see if we can get this to work now.
So what are we going for now?
The Sims, if it'll work. If not, I'm going to try exactly once. And then if that doesn't work, then we'll do Minecraft and come back to it.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions for Arienne, she's happy to answer anything media psychology, emerging media technologies, analysis of media, whether it be video games, movies, or TVs. Also a big fan of comic books is what we just learned. A lot of time talking about those, which, I mean, that I'm glad comic books have won over the general public at the very least.
I'm gonna skip. The Sims is not ready, so I'm gonna do Minecraft.
Minecraft. All right, we're gonna move over to Minecraft. Do you do goal oriented or?
I like to try to build, but in survival mode. So like get all the. I want to join this game as a user. What? Okay.
Might have one open. I don't know.
Oh, I do. That's what's going on. Okay.
Cuddle Puppy. There's been a lot of about Zoomers self-diagnosing themselves with mental illnesses on social media, but how much of this is overdiagnosis and how much of this is making up for previous generations' ignorance?
I think it's a little column A, little column B, right? So some mental illnesses are very, very complex and and by the way, I should caveat all of this by saying that I am not a psychologist. But some of these mental illnesses, as I say, very, very complex and rare. So, for example, oh, that's what happened. I had two of these up. Something like DID, dissociative identity disorder, is quite rare. But okay, we're good. Although, how do I? Oops. Let me make sure options. Let's full screen it.
I can go back to heads if you want to troubleshoot, or it's up to you.
No, I think we're okay. I just don't know how to make this go away at the bottom. Try options. Oh, video settings. Like why? It's like. Sorry.
No worries.
Oh, there we go. Full screen. There we go. We are
Nice.
good.
All right. I'll edit out all that.
Okay.
We're jumping into full screen Minecraft.
Yay.
So this is you starting from scratch.
Yeah, I started a brand new world.
What does that to say? I've never played Minecraft.
It's relaxing, I think.
It was a window that I just never. Man, when did it come out? It had to be 2008.
It's been a couple months since I've played, so I've forgotten everything, of course, but
Minecraft. 2011 is when this first came out.
but so back to the question. Yes, so those things seem to be somehow more prevalent on social media than they are in everywhere else. Gosh, I forget. How do I build up? Nope. I forgot how to bring up the thing.
What do you need? Controls?
Yeah. And some things I do think that we maybe are just a little bit more understanding that they are real things than we once were, maybe more accepting. Things aren't quite as stigmatized as they once were. But I also think that there is some people trying to just get clout, things like that, that don't really have, they may have mental illness, but not this severity, for example, or they might have something like an anxiety disorder, but claim that they have DID, which is, again, very, very rare.
So what command do you want to know? Or
I need to like bring up my little, let's see.
Quick bar? There's a scroll on the mouse.
No. Like I forget what it's called. It's like
Somebody knows this. Somebody in chat is
how do I
playing Minecraft.
Bring up the crafting menu to build stuff?
F3 is a debug menu. Left mouse, middle. Open inventory is E.
There we go. That's what I need.
All right. There we go. We troubleshot it, ladies and gentlemen. I've watched many of videos on Minecraft, like people designing full computers and calculators,
Oh yeah,
image generators.
I am not there, but it's okay.
I mean, it's amazing because they understand fundamentals of how these things work.
Yeah, it's incredible. It is really incredible.
I mean, it's one of those things, and we've heard this critique a lot in the sciences that, you know, when I was younger, I could take a radio and take it apart, right? But like technology has become so intricate, so like a cell phone, even if you take it apart, it's not like it has obvious resistors and transistors and capacitors and things like that. But Minecraft kind of does that from a, bottom up perspective where you can build things rather than take them apart. And so it's been good developmentally for a lot of people. It has some chemistry, apparently. I learned recently that you can like rust copper, you can oxidize
Really?
it. Yeah.
That might be new. They're always updating these things.
Yeah. Oh, the staying power of this game has been absolutely amazing. All right, we should do another prediction.
Okay.
Which one do you want to go with?
Let's go with I'm gonna do the moral choice one.
All right, moral choices while playing a Minecraft. Are there moral choices in Minecraft?
No, not really.
I mean, there's open worlds, right, where you can destroy other people's things and
I think you would have to be like on their
on their
server,
servers.
probably.
Yeah.
That would be rude.
All right, so we're going to have some questions about media psychology. In particular, we're going to talk about moral choices in gaming. And the question is, moral choicing in gaming is arbitrary, true or false? I mean, is it truly random decision making, or is there something guiding it? That's the question that's in front of you. If you guys aren't familiar with predictions, click the predict button at the top of chat right now and arbitrarily bet your standard internet units on one of these answers, true or false. I don't think there's an easy way to find this answer. I'll see GPT chat or chat GPT. Is that going to come up with a reasonable answer or not?
Maybe if you're just really familiar with my research. I don't know.
If they could find it on your webpage, maybe. But is making moral choices in games arbitrary? I guess my follow-up to this is someone's choices in gaming reflective of them as a person outside of the game?
Oh, that's a good question too.
Yeah, we'll wait 1 minute for you guys to answer this question. Are making moral choices in video games arbitrary, or is there some guiding force or something that makes people behave a certain way versus another way? That is the question. I mean, it is. I could argue that game designers are ignorant enough that their choices are arbitrary. Everyone's a critic. Designing games is
That's
hard.
tough, man.
Like, you work so hard and you're convinced it's good, or maybe you're not. Maybe you don't care. If you work for EA, you don't care.
I actually have a friend that works at EA.
Really?
Yeah.
How do they like it?
I think they do like it. They're learning a lot.
Yeah.
I need to know next how to throw stuff.
All right. You guys have about 30 seconds. Making moral choices in games is arbitrary, true or false? Throw your predictions in there right now. You just play a video game where you just flip a coin every time there's a decision tree.
Oh my gosh, that would be incredible.
That should be your study.
Well, not all of them are binary like that.
Yeah.
Some are.
All right. What is the answer? Making moral choices in video games is arbitrary, true or false? What is the correct answer?
I guess this is sort of an unfair question because it's really, are they always arbitrary?
Yeah.
And that answer is false.
False.
They're not always arbitrary, but they can sometimes be. You can certainly do a flip of the coin. Nobody's stopping you, right? But the thing is that what I found in my research that's, I think, really interesting is that people, it depends on a lot, actually, what they do. And again, people are messy. So, just because I say that people tend to do something doesn't mean that that is true always or anything like that. But what we've found is that, or a lot of times, the first time somebody plays a game that has a moral choice in it, they will actually just be good. Oftentimes,
they'll be benevolent gods.
yeah. They will try to be good. They'll try to be a good person. They'll try to do nice things. They'll try to be kind when they're speaking to people. All that, and some of the other things that they consider when making decisions is the type of character that they're playing as. So, like, let's say you're playing a game like I'll go back to Red Dead Redemption. where you're playing as Arthur Morgan, right? So that's a person who exists and has a backstory, and has motivations of their own, separate from the player. So what happens, or what we have found so far, is that in that situation, when there is that kind of player or that kind of character that you're playing as, and they have their own thoughts, feelings, behaviors, people like to try to be in line with that, actually. So like, and if you think about it, it makes sense, because like in the world of Red Dead Redemption, you are an outlaw, so you're not going to be totally good, right? You're going to do some bad stuff, but it's in line kind of with what that character would do, because that character is an outlaw. Whereas, if it's like a more realistic game, maybe not. But when it's a character that's really, really kind of a blank slate, like you're playing Skyrim, for example, and you are creating a character for the first time, a lot of times people will either play like they would in real life, like, okay, in real life, I would do this, so that's what I'm going to do. Or they kind of build their own backstory. So you can decide, okay, my version of the Dovahkiin in Skyrim is just a total asshole. And so that'll happen. But it's kind of more likely in that case, because you're starting from nothing. You have no backstory on this character. You do not know anything about them. They just are this blank slate. So, oh man, I lost my crafting table. I need to build a bed. Okay. So it's interesting. And now the second playthrough, kind of all bets are off. People will do literally whatever they feel like.
I was going to say, is it inevitable that people just start like murdering or just go completely evil mode?
I mean, it's more likely on a second play than a first. First playthrough, people are just, it's dark. I don't know what to do. I can't see. Because it's nighttime. I've wasted my entire day.
Define wasted.
No, I mean that means I'm like probably gonna die because we're in survival mode.
Oh, I see.
But
Well, Reese's Pieces have redeemed Take a Drink, so cheers to that.
All right,
I hope you
cheers.
survive. Thank you for joining me. Everyone at home, hopefully have a drink in hand. All right. Do you want something else? Do you want more of this?
I'll take some more of this.
All right. Give it to you to pour.
Yeah. So is the answer really is, it's just really, really complicated. And that's kind of par for the course with social science research in a way. But
Yeah.
people tend to do different things based on the type of character, based on whether it's their first or second playthrough. And also the norms of the game, right?
Yeah.
So like if you're playing Grand Theft Auto, it's expected that you're going to do bad stuff. So it's like morally permissible,
Yeah.
even though it's a quote real kind of environment. It's sort of morally permissible because it's Grand Theft Auto, and everybody knows when you're playing Grand Theft Auto that you're supposed to like run over people and steal their cars and all that kind of stuff. So
I mean, so the games you've been describing are primarily first-person type. You're as someone, right? But like Sims, where you're God mode, right? Is that a different circumstance?
this is a great question. I don't know yet. It is. This is my suspicion, right? So when you're sort of God mode like that, you are removed in some ways from the situation, right? So if you're doing bad stuff, I mean, you're this all-powerful, godlike character that who cares? I have power over life and death. Why should I care? Which is troubling to think about, I think. But I can attest when we play The Sims in a little bit, if it works ever, I'm sure I will be acting like that. But I do think that being removed from it slightly does make a difference.
Yeah. Well, there was a game, I had to look it up now. Just, it was black and white. Have you heard of this? It came out in 2001, but it was one that was explicitly you could choose good or evil path. And a lot of things have done this since then, but I think this was one of the earliest ones that did it. I'd be really curious the breakdown on that.
Yeah, I mean, and some of it is you're incentivized to do bad stuff in some way. Like, if I don't know if you've ever played the Infamous series, but it sets up this sort of moral binary, good versus evil. But when you're bad, you get way cooler powers.
Yeah.
So it's like,
What's the incentive?
yeah. So incentive also, that's a good point to bring up, because incentive also does matter.
Yeah. What's the reward? I mean, ultimately, a lot of this is reward, whether it's personal feeling or skill in the game.
Yeah, but a lot of times, especially when it's like a real story heavy type of thing, people want the best story, whatever that means, right? And so they want, especially when they get attached to a character, it's like they want good things for that character, and they want that character to, have nice things. So
Yeah.
So it's kind of a trick question, I suppose, but I would say false is the right answer there.
So, Cuddle Puppy, did you see the episode of Penn and Teller's show where they got a kid who loved shooting games to fire an assault rifle?
No, I haven't.
I've seen the clip. I know what you're talking about, Cuddle Puppy, and it was I mean, like a 10 or 12-year-old kid or something. But he, after firing the assault rifle, he started to cry because, like, it's a very violent act, firing a gun.
Yeah.
And that's a very real physical feeling. So,
Well, the thing too that sometimes gets lost, especially when we talk about like video games and violence, which isn't per se my area, but I am familiar with the literature, is that people do know the difference between real life and real people, and video games and what's going on in video games. So I think when you have a situation like that, it's one thing to shoot pixels.
Yeah.
It is another thing to hold something or shoot something like, an assault rifle that can just mow through people, right?
I mean, I guess we've touched on several of these with like portrayals of mental illness as well as, violence in video games translating to real life. One of the questions we like to ask is like, what would be your peak anti-vax / world is flat view in your domain of expertise?
Oh my gosh.
What's the pet peeve? What sets you off?
Yeah, I was thinking about this earlier and I had a really good answer and I forgot it.
Whole journey.
So I know I'm sure I'll get it back, but in the meantime, I think I just completely lost everything. Yep. All right. Cool. In the meantime, so I think one thing is no. Okay, I thought I could just like light my way, but I guess I'll just have to stick here until the morning. So one thing that's really irritating is that, like, gosh, when people, first of all, I think I've sort of touched on, like, sort of when we think about, people don't give people enough credit when they're doing entertainment stuff. Like, there's all these fears, right? Like moral panics and, violent video games, but violent video games are certainly not the only thing. It was comic books back in the day. It was movies during the years of the Hays Code, whatever, where people are like, this is gonna have terrible impacts on everybody and everybody's gonna be, whatever.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. A part of it is people want to protect children. But people forget that children are like not stupid. And so, for instance, like they understand that video games are not real. And I remember, I mentioned my nephew. I talked to him one time, and one of his teachers was like, in cartoons they do bad stuff, and I was like, look, okay, you watch cartoons, right? And he's like, yeah, and I was like, and do they do bad stuff sometimes? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, and do you know not to do that? And he's like, yeah. I was like, all right then. Okay, we're all right. Now, do media have impacts? Yes. Are they, negative all the time? No. Are they positive all the time? No. But it's just not as it's not as impactful as people think.
Yeah.
And in a way that's good.
I mean, so the media has to play a big role in that. So like
Yeah.
watching shows back in the 90s was very different than a trend on TikTok where all your friends are doing some act, right? Like, is there, I don't know where I'm going with that, but like the medium has to matter and how they interact with that media.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. And also, it is the case that a lot of times, sort of all of these things are overblown in some ways.
Yeah.
So for the thing I think of is like Tide
Tide
Pods.
Pods. I was
Yeah.
going to say that was.
I am skeptical that that was as widespread as people were making it seem.
Yeah.
I tend to lean on the side that that probably was happening. That happened maybe like a couple times, and then everybody was like, "Oh my God, Tide Pods!"
I mean, this is an intrinsic problem with outrage media, right? You just need one example.
Yes,
And you can blow it up into a
exactly
endemic.
Uh-huh.
That sucks. I mean, so I guess that's a systemic problem.
It is. Yeah, there's not a great solution, unfortunately. But it is. I mean, it is what it is, I suppose. But I think being aware of that kind of thing is certainly helpful.
Cuddle puppy. But boomers love pretending that people younger than them are wild animals.
I know, but when they were young,
I was going to say every generation has done that.
Yes.
Right?
So like, I mean, we talk about the comics code,
Yeah.
for instance. Everybody was like, comics, these superhero comics.
Elvis with his hips and whatnot.
So it's this has been the case forever. So there's this ancient Greek writings where people were complaining. It might have been like Socrates or Plato, or one of them. I can't remember exactly which
you're
one.
Talking about, yeah.
But they were talking about how like the kids their memories would not be good because they were writing stuff down. So literally since the beginning, it's like they were writing stuff down and that's going to rot their brains.
Yeah.
So it's nothing new under the sun.
Cuddle puppy. Am I out of touch? No, it's the children who are wrong.
Literally every time,
I think that's a Simpsons quote.
It is, yeah.
It's Principal Skinner. Yeah. Classic. Thank you, Cuddle Puppy. I haven't watched The Simpsons in like 20 years, but I loved the early seasons of it.
I don't know what happens to clay when you cook it. Let's find out.
That is one thing I love about this game. They did permutation math on processing materials.
A brick.
Seems realistic. Heated enough. Am I out of touch? No, it's the children who are
I know.
wrong. It's perfect.
I think I need some iron so that I can make shears so I can make a bed.
The Simpsons who are wrong. No, Simpsons did it, and they did it first. They're the origin of all those stories.
Yeah.
All right, let's go with one of our standard questions. I mean, obviously, you're here playing video games with me tonight, talking about your expertise in media psychology and entertainment and emerging media technologies. I don't imagine 6-year-old you was like, this is where I want to be in 30 years, right? So, what path took you to here?
Yeah, originally I was I was going to be an English major when I was in college. So I went to college at LSU, go Tigers. And I just was like, yeah, I'm going to be an English major. I'm going to be an author. I'm going to be like, creative writing. And my first day of undergrad, I had my first English class and I saw the syllabus and it was just like 7 books. Or it was more than that. I think it was like a book a week. And I was like, oh, this isn't for me. Like this isn't what I thought. I thought it was gonna be like creative writing and stuff, and that's not what it is. And so I was like, oh no. So ultimately, I was like, okay, well, I don't know. I'm gonna do something else. I need to figure it out. And so my older sister had done a public relations degree, or she was working in public relations at the time. And so I was like, well, that sounds kind of cool. And LSU had a really good PR program. So I was like, okay. Or they had a good, like, just mass communications program. So I was like, well, let me try that. And I was going to do advertising. I think Mad Men was on at the time or something. It's funny how, like, when a show becomes popular, everybody's like, that's what I'm going to major in.
That's the Scully effect, right? From X-Men.
Yeah, yeah.
Women getting into forensics and
Yeah, and CSI,
Yeah,
when
yep.
CSI was real popular.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, so I'm gonna do that. And so what wound up happening is that when I was an undergrad, as part of my scholarship, I was able to have an on-campus job, so for a little extra money. And my first semester, whenever you are like getting assigned those things, I was doing Tiger Band at LSU. And so I was like, I don't want to sign myself up for too much, right? So I'm not going to do the on-campus job. I'm going to do Tiger Band. And so then the second semester comes and I'm like, okay, now it's time to get a job. And all of the jobs are taken, like all the little easy office jobs that the students want, right? So I'm like, oh, so they're like, well, you can work with a professor and do research. And I'm like, doing research? That sounds boring. But I did it, and it wound up being this sort of area of research that I'm doing now. And I really kind of was like, oh, this is actually really interesting. Who knew that you could do this and it be research? Like you could like study stuff that you're into. And so from there, I did like a summer program at Penn State. And after that, I wound up going to Penn State for grad school. And kind of the rest is history.
That's awesome. I mean, it's the path, regardless of discipline, most of us take.
Yeah.
The uncertainty, we're trying to figure out what to do with our life. Texas Space Agency, welcome back. It's always a pleasure to have you. Those guys should check him out. He's a blacksmith, at least on stream. He likes to make things while you guys watch.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, exactly.
One day I was at a conference and my friend and I were in our hotel room after the conference or whatever, and we saw this like Forged in Fire show, and now I'm like obsessed with swords and stuff.
It's awesome. Texan Space Agency, he makes, I know I've seen him do bottle openers, but also like casual things. I don't know about weaponry, but there is another streamer. What is his name? I've seen him make like swords. Who was that? Texan would know. But anyway, it's great to have you on stream. This is the most hipster thing I've ever said, but I was into space agriculture months before The Martian. The book or the movie? I need to know how hipster you are. Do you think the Beatles are better than modern music? How hipster are you? That's amazing. All right, Cuddle Puppy wants to know, how much do you love TikTok on a scale of 0 to -infinity?
I don't mind TikTok, man.
Are you on TikTok?
I don't produce anything on TikTok, but every now and then I go through phases where I'm like in the TikTok for a little bit, but I got off TikTok for a while because I was watching those Marvel shows.
Yeah.
And what kept happening, it's the most irritating thing in the world, right? I would be going on TikTok and let's say the show comes out on Friday and it's Friday morning.
Yeah.
Everybody's spoiling the show. I'm like, how dare, like what?
That's true.
So I deleted the app for a while because I was like, well, I'm trying to not get spoiled. Although, funnily enough, I've done some research on spoilers too. And they really don't make that much of a difference. But I was just like, this is so frustrating because I'm keeping spoiled. I don't want to be spoiled. And so then I deleted it, and then I went back eventually. But now I've somehow gotten, because it's algorithmic, right? Somehow I've now gotten to the point where I'm getting a lot of just stuff I really don't want to see, like a lot of political stuff, which I'm burnt out on.
Yeah.
A lot of like weird like pimple popping stuff. My sister's a doctor and she likes all that, and so I think she maybe sent me something one time.
And then it just the algorithm takes over.
I think so.
Oh, you need to see all of these.
And it's like, oh, you saw one of these once. Let's make it your problem forever.
Oh my God. So like my research group, we're on Twitter, we have a YouTube channel and everything. I never committed to TikTok. One, all the like safety and information concerns and stuff like that. But also, I don't know how to translate what we do in the sciences to like 20-second blips.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, some people find ways to do it. I feel like I'm not creative enough in that, not in that way at least.
yeah. Well, my group, our Twitter account is just pretty photos of science stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw in the main room.
Oh,
when you
yeah, I
walked in,
did.
The wall, that's all my students' photos.
Oh, that's so cool.
Which is fun because I get my students to like sign the back of it and they're like graduation.
Oh, you have
that
like a
thing.
record.
Yeah, exactly. I know the first paper, their major thing.
Oh, that is so.
Cuddle puppy, just show your cleavage, Ken. We talked about it previously. We needed to Ask a Scientist OnlyFans. That's
no.
clearly the next iteration. That's how you get people to engage. Mine is pictures of metal things and me in booty shorts. I mean, metallurgy and hot tub streams on Twitch.
That would be hilarious. Just
Yeah.
like science and booty shorts.
Someone better than I can take on that challenge. But, Texan Space Agency. I wrote my NSF proposal about Twitch. I hooked them up with fishing, and they stick around for talks of environmental justice. They come for the blacksmithing and stay for the black body physics. No, that's awesome.
That is fun.
So,
we just
yeah.
wrote a grant about TikTok, actually, like an internal grant, and now it looks like they're gonna ban it. So
How real is that?
I don't know. It's happened in other states, so I don't know. Well, if you know what, if they focus on that instead of other stuff in the state legislature, I'll be happy.
Good point. Distract them with something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have contingencies in case they do, but it's something we've been paying attention to because of that.
That's intense. Yeah, Texan. So I just had a NSF proposal recommended for funding, and the broader impacts is actually Ask a Scientist Gaming. So
Oh, that's fun.
yeah, people tend to like this outreach because it's very unusual, right, in terms of the NSF proposal scope. So hopefully, Texan, you get funded and you get support to do that. I mean, yeah. Texan Space Agency. Do you think Reels can replace TikTok? Is Reels the YouTube? version of that?
It is the Instagram version.
Instagram version.
Yeah.
Because YouTube has shorts or what? I don't know what they're called.
Yeah, YouTube has shorts. I don't really think that they're all that successful.
Yeah.
Because that's not really what YouTube is for. Can Reels replace TikTok? I mean, certainly people are doing that. Like a lot of times we just see cross posting, right? So people
Yeah.
post it on TikTok, then on Reels. Certainly on the one hand, a lot of people already have Instagram, right? So in that sense, but I don't know. I mean, I do think that platform in a way does matter, because we first start getting video on Instagram after Vine like kind of blows up, right? But it really never, people do use videos on Instagram, but it never really has the same sort of cultural meaning. They do have different audiences, that might be part of it, but it doesn't I am finding absolutely nothing down here.
A digging simulator.
I'm just trying to find some iron.
Are you familiar with speedruns of this game? Have you seen any of the
Oh man, I speed runs make me just nervous.
heads up, you're doing one later tonight.
Oh, great.
But the speedruns of this, they have to rely on statistical randomness to get certain things they need to build stuff. And
I
it's
got
like,
some iron.
There we go. The
Yeah, I mean,
RNG.
there's RNG here at play, so you never really. That's kind of the tricky thing about Minecraft, is that you need to have some random luck with the random number gods.
Yeah. No, there was a streamer who was at Dream they claimed the world record in speedrunning and then got debunked because their odds were statistically impossible.
Yeah, I think that was Dream.
Yeah, it was very controversial.
But they have people who are like, actually, I checked the statistics, and you're a scrub.
In their defense, they were right.
They were right, yeah. But I just don't understand how you can just. I teach statistics too, but I don't have the kind of brain that could just be like, no, that's not correct statistically.
I mean, you have to go through. I mean, we've done this with NARC, the game you'll be playing later, but doing the just like tool assisted speed runs, you get to know those statistics very, very well. It's fairly easy to see what's unlikely. Cuddle Puppy, how many times a day do you have to stop yourself from saying "Okay, Zoomer"? I mean, our students are the Zoomers.
Yeah,
right?
never. I've never said that, I don't think.
Yeah, we're not old enough to be that cynical yet, right?
I mean, I don't know. I am fairly cynical, I think, but
I mean, but does that judgment get passed on to the next generation? Because my cynicism is with me and older.
I
don't want to blame younger people, because honestly, like my generation, I'm the eldest of the millennials. I fall under the 1982 like threshold between the two, and it's like we were the ones that were supposed to make a difference and we didn't. And then you look at the last election cycle and Generation Z is actually doing something.
Yeah, they do
out.
seem to be more politically motivated, maybe.
Yep.
We'll see how, you know, how much that lasts.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are students and we love them.
This will be on YouTube, by the way.
Yeah, just in case any of you are watching, I love you all. You're fabulous.
I mean, but going back to like Socrates saying this generation is the worst generation.
Yeah, I think, as I said, I think people are somewhat resistant to change. And, you know, new generations do represent that in some ways. And do they like certain things that maybe are a little cringy or whatever? Yeah, but so did you at that age.
Yeah, but we don't
So
have
did
like,
we all.
we don't have digital records of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, also, we didn't grow up in a world where our parents exploited us as children.
Yeah,
social
that's
media.
a big thing too.
That's going to cause a lot of damage, and
We've already seen like some lawsuits and things like
Yeah.
that. Okay, I need at least a
yeah, like
torch.
Debbie and I agreed with our kids. They have very little on social media of any kind, right? Like one photo with my wife and them on Facebook or something. But like we have private shared accounts, but not
Yeah.
like it has to be their choice how they want to share that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, you know, when my nephews were younger, that's just not something we were thinking about.
Yeah.
And now it's almost like, ooh, you
Whoops.
know, now they're out there. It's like, what can you do?
Yeah.
And once they're there, there's not much you can do to. We're not Europe, right, where they have right to be forgotten.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those, like, it's going to be lost in the noise unless somebody really wants to find it.
Oh, yeah,
Right? And
yeah.
then you can Wayback Machine or whatever it is.
And then in that case, it is just pictures of them. Like, I have some friends that'll share really crazy photos of their kids, like having blowout diapers and stuff like that. I'm like, you sure about this?
All right. Texan responding to our Zoomers comment. I was this close to saying, get the F out of my office today. Eyes on the prize, long-term goal. I mean, that's been true for generations, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, when you're working with students who are just out of home for the first time, and you know, there's different expectations between a college professor and a high school teacher, right? Sometimes that is challenging to navigate for them and us, but on the whole, they're trying their best, I think.
Texan, have you heard their music? As Burr, presumably Bill Burr, said, in my day, you dressed like a lady and hailed Satan. That was real music. Absolutely.
You know what? When it hit me that I was like, oh, like last Super Bowl, not this one, but the one last year, although this one was a bop too. Whenever, oh no, there's a zombie. Leave me alone, please. I'm gonna go down in my hole and hope the zombie doesn't come. Actually, I'm gonna do this. Now the zombie can't get me. And I was like, yeah, best Super Bowl ever. Not like when all those old people's music is there. And then I did some math and I was like, oh, oh no.
That's neat. Well, there's been studies on this. Like your taste in music is established when you're like 16 or 17 years
And then
old.
it doesn't really change.
Yeah.
It's not, and it's weird because that's not the case with like movies and stuff. You know, you like different things.
Yeah.
It's just with music. I think maybe it's because music is part of our identity in some ways. It's tied to that.
That's intriguing. Yeah, I don't know. I need more music theory people on it.
I don't. I'm not up on all my music theory.
So, Cuddle Puppy, I think, coming into the defense of millennials. Millennials were told that Obama was going to change the world, and then his policies agreed with Bush 90% of the time.
Yeah, that is true.
Texan, I thought I was voting for a Kenyan socialist, and all I got was a rich Hawaiian.
You're not wrong. I mean,
it was easy to get cynical. Like, where's our health care? Like,
oh no, the zombie's still there. And yes, and I think that healthcare thing is so frustrating because it was like, let's compromise until nobody's happy with anything. And where does that leave us? Right?
Yeah.
Nowhere.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
trust me, I'll talk about politics.
I'm all for aggressively making change. Like something has to happen.
Yeah.
Like metric system at the very least.
Siri is
Just trying to get you, trying to trigger you to talk politics. All right. Let's dive back into the sciences a little bit. Like one of the ones we like to ask: if you had no moral qualms and unlimited budget, what experiment, what study would you like to do? I mean, keep in mind,
man.
you can go to the biggest extreme you can imagine. We've had people say blow up a planet, another one put ankle monitors through a hurricane at a city. For you
man.
can trap 1,000 undergrads in space and study. Like, what do you want to do?
Oh man, I think some of my goals are actually feasible if I did have money, right? Like create our own stimuli materials and things like that.
Stimuli, like your own video game, your own.
Yeah.
Your own.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
we
fun.
can do some, but when you have participants, it's hard to keep them in there for like hours.
Yeah.
Video games can be quite long, even short ones, right? So on the one hand, as simple as like having people play entire video games would be great. In terms of like, if I had no moral qualms, oh my gosh.
You don't have to answer that, but it's intriguing.
It's I think always of like the Milgram studies, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of social psych stuff, which is not that far removed from the social sciencey type of stuff we do in media effects. But maybe I'm just a nice person. I don't know. I don't those moral qualms. I'm not like.
So that's not necessarily a requirement of the question, but it's more of a like. I mean, if you had the opportunity to play God, that could go a lot of different directions, right? And so for some of our psychologists that do twin studies, it would be have twins and separate them at birth. And is that morally reprehensible?
Yeah, sure.
It actually happens. We just don't have big enough data sets.
Right.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, I guess no, I did it right the first time. Get some shears. I think that it's certainly having people do real, when you look at morality, that is something that I really want to study more of in video game spaces, right? How immoral can you get? Really? I mean, on some levels, vary, right?
Yeah.
So there are some video games out there, like Fallout 3, for example, where you can nuke a town because a rich dude doesn't like the view.
Yeah.
That's, true facts that. But on the other hand, it's so outlandish that it's like, come on, it's not really real life.
But like The Sims, somebody inevitably gets locked in a room until they go crazy. Right?
That is true. I mean, yeah. And I think, some of my students have told me, I don't know this study. I haven't spoken to the person who does it. But in the psych department, they were doing a study where they were basically jumping off buildings in VR, which is morally suspect. I think it would be, I'm not a violence in video games researcher. As I said, I'm familiar with the literature, but that's not really my research. I would like to put that to bed, though, like to actually see, right? And that would require.
I mean, but the community at large has already debunked that thoroughly, right?
The research in it is really hard to say because. This was the answer to that other question. I remembered it. Thank you for bringing it up. So what really irritates me, there are these violence in video game studies, and the way they operationalize violence or aggression post-game drives me insane. Because I don't know if you've ever heard of the hot sauce studies.
No.
Well, what they do, because you can't actually say here's a gun, have fun. Right? You can't do stuff like that because IRB generally frowns on it. So what they do, one of the proxies that they use, I am now lost. Oh no. Where's my little base? What they do is they put you in a room and they give you some food and some hot sauce. And they say, prepare this food for this other person. And by the way, the person doesn't really like hot sauce. And so they measure how much hot sauce you put as a measure of aggression. Because the idea is like you are doing something that you know is like causing harm and that they don't enjoy. And I guess I get it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, come on.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, so that's a very specific case study, but there's been broader, like, does release of video games
Yes.
correlate with the increase in crimes and like this
Yeah,
broader.
and generally we don't see that. I mean, there are some researchers who will stake their claim that video games do have an impact on aggression. The meta-analyses don't seem to bear that out.
Yeah.
And so even in experimental conditions where you would think it would be like the purest possible conditions, we don't really see it. So
I mean, so back to one of your answers for the unlimited budget would be to create a game where you could, track or influence you could ask particular questions in how you design the gameplay, which would be awesome, right?
Well, and I'm playing with some stuff. Like I've downloaded Unreal Engine and I'm like, can I do it?
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's beyond me or not yet. I haven't tried yet.
Well, I guess my follow-up on that is obviously if you've designed the game, you also have the play log, right? Like all that qualitative and quantitative information, it's in there already, right? So you could design the back end of that to intrinsically give you the info you want. So I guess the question then is, I mean, that already exists for a lot of these games, right? Have you ever tried to partner with a game design company? Like they have certain meta information from gameplay. I mean, can you use that?
Yeah, it's certainly worth trying, I would say. I'm not there yet, I guess, in terms of laying the groundwork with some pilot stuff.
Yeah.
Is kind of the stage I'm at now. But that is one of the things that I've been thinking about. Is like, okay, maybe we can make some partnerships with some devs. Oh my gosh, what is happening? And get on their good side and be like, pretty please, because we are in that sense sort of at their mercy.
Yeah.
Part of that still has some problems, not problems, but because they're so real to life, you kind of lose experimental control.
Yeah.
Which is, you sacrifice validity or you sacrifice experimental control. That's the name of the game. I mean, it might be worth it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so there's also the you have to deal with like IRB, right, in the human testing aspect. So somebody has to know that data is being collected on them.
Yes.
Right. So that have to be written in the terms of service or something of a game.
Yeah, and we might be able to get around it by saying if the game already has that, for example, like if in their terms of service they already are saying, we're collecting this data, and so. But then I don't know that IRB would buy it anyway because they're real big on informed consent, those folks. But I guess in an ideal world where I didn't have to worry about informed consent.
No moral qualms.
Yeah. So it's very, very low impact, I feel. But that's, I don't think I have the types of questions I have, I guess. I didn't really get through IRB pretty easy. So
yeah. Texan. Will Rockstar tell you how many times people murdered in GTA?
Rockstar is one of those devs that are pretty tight-lipped, I would say. I think we'd have better luck with either indie developers or just smaller developers. We've actually been in conversation, not about doing research together or anything, but the people at Ninja Theory who developed Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, they actually read the study that we did on it. Because we did it with Frontiers, which is open access. So they read it and they reached out and we're like, hey, do you want to do a video together? And so we did, which is kind of my moment in science, that I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool.
That was your I made it moment?
That and going to PAX East were both really like, wow, I feel important. But yes, I think in an ideal world, that's what we would want to do, is either create our own, which gives us, as I said, a lot of experimental control, or partner with a dev or somebody like that already has all that in the back end.
How do I find this video?
I think it's probably it's on their YouTube channel. So they're called Ninja Theory.
It would have your name attached to it.
I'm not sure. Maybe. That's the study.
That's the paper.
There it is, right there.
This one?
Uh-huh.
All right. That's a news.
I haven't read that article, but that's it.
Awesome. I'm going to put it in chat if you guys want to take a look at it.
Yeah.
All right. Texan had a space up, follow up on that. How do you get around the bias that creates? If you know someone is watching you, don't you tend to behave better?
That is a great question and absolutely true. This is it's not the white coat effect, that's in medicine, but it's similar. So the white coat effect in medicine is like when you're at the doctor, your blood pressure will be higher, even if you have no blood pressure issues normally.
Yeah.
So we have social desirability issues. That is a concern always. And what social desirability is that people act in a way, in social science in particular, they act in a way that is not necessarily how they would act, but there's something else influencing them. So it could be, for example, if you're asking them about something very sensitive, like if you're doing work on, I was reviewing a paper about pornography use, and it was looking at people's perceptions of their partner's pornography use. Well, that's kind of a sensitive topic, and people don't necessarily want to be honest about it because they think it's stigmatizing or whatever. So they may just not be honest, right? You could also have issues in a lab situation where, because somebody is watching and because that person is a researcher, you might act in a different way. So like if you're doing moral decision making, for instance, you might be like, ooh, the researcher is going to think I'm a bad person, so let me just do some good stuff. And that's possible, right? How do you get around it? There's a few ways. One, actually just telling people like, hey, I have a crafting table here. Where's my bed? Oh, there it is. If you just tell people like, oh, hey, by the way, the stuff that you've said is anonymous, they tend to be honest. Also, if you just reiterate to them, like, just act as you normally would, a lot of times that'll help. It might not be perfect, but it'll help. Other than that, you just have to rely on statistics. So if you're randomly assigning people across the board, then it should kind of come out in the wash.
Too much. That's fine.
So
I'm not driving. We're okay.
Yeah. So it should come out in the wash if you're randomly assigning people different conditions. So typically it's not too much of a problem, but it is definitely something to be aware of.
Texan. That's why I'm a physical geographer.
Yeah.
Landscape,
Social science, man.
Yeah, you guys deal with many soft variables that are hard to account for. But I respect it. It's some of my favorite studies because it's like what sucks is like there's a lot of conclusions you see in social sciences where it's like, well, duh, but it's not duh until somebody does it.
Yeah.
Like intuition can tell you duh, but you can be wrong.
Yes, intuition can be wrong. There's things that happen that are counterintuitive. I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head. I can't, but it's certainly not unusual where you're like, okay, all my intuition says this, and then you read the study about it, and it's exactly the opposite. Because there might be a lot of reasons that would flip it, or, for example, well, here's maybe an example. My dissertation advisor does work on like inspirational media, and you might think that inspirational media has a positive impact on people, but it doesn't always. Sometimes it's the opposite because people feel like it's cheesy or exploitative. And so if you're just going on intuition, like, yeah, obviously if it's inspirational, people will respond positively, then you will be wrong at least some of the time.
I have a COVID related one. A lot of people think that as soon as you go to online testing, the prevalence of cheating goes up when people are doing it remotely.
Yeah.
None of that is true. Like none of the literature supports that in terms of.
It very much depends. You get different types of cheating.
Yeah. But the prevalence in terms of the percent of people that will cheat, it stays roughly the same. Or the mechanism might change, but it depends on the stakes on the test and all sorts of variables like that. But
Yeah, I'm actually in a reading group with Center for Advanced Mid Teaching right now that is about cheating lessons, like learning from academic dishonesty. That's what they say. It's like one of the main predictors is not whether you're online or offline. Is it really high stakes test?
Yep.
Is it
how is it incentivized to cheat? Is it worth it?
yeah, because sometimes if it's like a really low stakes thing, for instance, it's probably not worth it, right? But if it's really high stakes and if it's really high stakes and it's really like where it matters a lot, that's another way to say high stakes, I guess. There's just different, there's some things that's easier to cheat on. And so then if you have the capability to, whereas if, you're asked to write about something that happened yesterday, it's really hard to cheat on that,
Texan going back to the question of bias during watching. I heard a similar point made in a talk I heard at AAG about racism. How do you get people to tell you they are racist?
Yeah.
Yes.
It depends on the language you use.
Yep.
And it depends on how you're asking people stuff. So this is good self-report measures are tough. They have to be statistically validated, which is not a simple process. I'm trying to validate a study on moral decision making now, and it is hard.
Yeah.
But you have to get around it basically, and you sometimes have to disguise what you're looking at. So if you're asking them their feelings about people of another race, for example, you might have to also ask them about a bunch of other groups that you actually don't care about. But you're trying to
just suss it out.
You're trying to get them to not guess, because if they guess and they know that, oh, it's bad to be racist, I don't want the researcher to think I'm a bad person, then they're not going to be honest. So that's another form of social desirability. And that's why a lot of the psychology work in like race and racism, they try to use implicit measures, but those also have problems. Like there's this thing called the IATs, implicit attitude test, where they show you how it basically works. Like they show you some pictures and you have to sort them. So like white, black, for example, and you try doing as fast as you can. It's measuring by like the millisecond.
Yeah. It's like subconscious.
And then on the second round, you might sort words like good, bad as fast as you can. Then they say either good or black is over here and bad and white is over here. And you have to sort. And then they switch. So it's like good, white, black, bad. And they see which one you're faster at.
Yeah.
There's some problems with that. Mainly, you just get better at it.
What's causing that discrepancy? That's intriguing.
Yeah.
I appreciate the creativity in trying to do that.
What I've noticed in psychology studies is that they try not to rely on self-report very much. They try really hard to do these other measures like the hot sauce thing to get around it. And I think with mixed success.
Yeah. I mean, but it's right. You got to be creative to pinpoint what you want, but not be so obvious. Like that's brutal. All right. Following up on a few questions. Texan Space Agency. Is there anything in literature about choices in video games? Like, are we moral choices? Like we are given moral choices in games. What does the data say about this? I'll give you the short answer. The first time people play through, generally they are on the good moral side. The second time, far less likely to be on the good side. But it depends on the mechanism and whether your character is biased towards positive or negative. So does that that roughly summarizes it up? Yeah, the discussion we had earlier actually, Texan. So yeah, a fun topic to think about for sure. And we're almost 10 o'clock. Do you want to try, see if Sims is ready to go?
Yeah, let's see.
Speaking of bad moral choices, lock two people in a room until they marry each other.
All right, I think we are ready to go. Let's see.
We did not show them the time played. Do you ever look back on a game and you see the time you played and you're like, do I regret my life choices? We're probably supposed to talk about KOTOR 2. I don't know what that is.
Knights of the Old Republic.
Okay.
Which I am sad to say that I haven't played, but I know I mean, I know quite a bit about it.
Oh,
It's
is
a
that the
Star Wars
Jedi? You
game.
can choose your, yeah.
Yeah, so it takes place. Let's do a new game. It takes place way before Star Wars, and you're playing as this Jedi Knight it's decisions and whether you want to be light side or dark side and all that. And there's like twists and stuff to the story.
Oh, man, that is an interesting question. Texan wants to know, are there seasonal effects? So people commit more violent crimes during periods of high social stress, like around elections?
It's a great question.
Yeah, and holiday seasons, and prevalence of heart attack goes up around the Super Bowl. Which
Yeah,
is interesting.
yeah. Also, I was discussing this with somebody earlier today. Daylight savings time, the day after that, incidences of heart attacks go up.
That's interesting.
So seasonal effects, interesting. I have no data on it. I don't know.
I mean, like suicide rates go up by the holidays. I mean, there's no question it's going to impact. But I mean, getting that nuance out of studies, that's I blame sports betting on the heart attacks.
Maybe.
Sure. That's pretty fun. All right, Cuddle Puppy wanted to know how much of our cynicism was created by American Psycho or Wolf of Wall Street and people who didn't get it. Yeah. If you thought they were the good guys in those movies, you are sorely mistaken.
Both of them. Well, the thing about Wolf of Wall Street, though, is that it's based on Jordan Belfort's autobiography.
Yeah.
So everything is on his perspective. And so I do think of course, I don't necessarily think we're meant to like idolize him, but I do think it's a little soft on him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, and it had to be entertaining.
Yeah.
Favorite scene in that movie is his vision of what he was like driving the car versus reality.
Oh, yeah.
That
was really funny.
captured something that probably describes the entirety of that movie. What he thinks he did and what he actually did are very different things.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. This is not who I want. Okay, let's see.
My therapist told me that there are radical changes to faculty, staff, and students depending on the time of the semester. Like you said, there's we all say no duh, but someone has to measure it. Oh yeah, my wife can tell when a general chemistry test is coming, like, because I'm stressed. Like I take my testing very seriously. I want it to be good, and it affects me. It affects how I interact with my wife and kids. Like that's 100% real, good or bad. And also when things go well, that's awesome.
I'm gonna make this dude blue. Why not?
I nearly quit today, man. Tex and I was there about 9 months to a year ago, where it's like I had another set of 3 grants rejected, and it was just for bullshit reasons. And I'm like, I don't need this.
Isn't
job.
that always why?
Yeah.
Thankfully, in our field, we're not as reliant on grants. Well, the stuff we're doing is not as expensive.
Yeah.
That's really it.
I mean, it's hard because the stress is like I'm genuinely passionate about the research. And the only reason I'm doing the grants is because I want to do the research. And it's like, if I won the lottery, I would self-fund this stuff. Like,
yeah.
Like, but I have to be reliant on a system that doesn't necessarily reward the most interesting ideas or whatnot. It's just, yeah, bias is there, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh yeah. Especially with grants, because they know who you are when you're.
Exactly. No, it's very true. And then and a lot of the grants go to the top tens in the Ivory Leagues, and it's biased in that direction. And it's hard not to get cynical. I get no support from the department, and they keep asking more of me, taking it for granted, and that it just takes care. But then blaming me when it doesn't. Yeah, no, we're being asked to do more with less. Definitely heard that from my senior colleagues for sure, especially on the administrative end of things. So you're designing a character for The Sims?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Just being silly with it.
The afro, the Bob Ross afro.
This is an afro I wish I had. I never quite get there because I always get tired of it and cut it.
I was gonna say, you just have to commit, right?
I know.
Let it go.
I just need to commit. Make it happen.
I like it. Conversely, I see liars, cheaters, and shysters get so much help and support. Yeah. Nope. System is broken. There's no question about it.
No.
Texan, that's why you need to become department chair and turn it around. You have my vote.
You have my vote too, even though I'm not in your department.
Exactly. We'll back you. Tell people random friends on Twitch said you're good for the job. All right. 10 o'clock. I should answer some of my standard questions. We kind of tackled this one a little bit, but it was specific to like mental disorders. But more broadly, what movie or TV show gets your discipline wrong and what gets it right? Your discipline broadly defined.
I don't think anybody
Captures
puts my discipline online. Because it's sort of a smaller area.
there's emerging technologies, futuristic emergences in movies.
Yeah. I think, anytime you see like someone doing any kind of work on new media or new technologies or whatever, they always have like 17 doctorates, which, look, man, I got one and I'm not interested in going and get another one.
Yeah.
And it takes time. It's not, I'm not understanding how Bruce Banner has 7 doctorates. But
7 doctors.
they tend to make people like too broad, right? So they're an expert in everything, which is just generally not how it works. Everybody I know that is in academia is an expert in something really specific.
Yep.
Like in the School of Comm, we have many faculty. Nobody does the same thing.
Yep.
Everybody's doing something different. And so on one level, you've got that.
One of my favorite parts about that, and I've learned this in Ask a Scientist Gaming, is people in their narrow focus of expertise, there's a valley of uncertainty where like just go slightly outside of their expertise, they're very uncomfortable to talk about.
Yeah.
But if you go way outside of their expertise, they'll talk all day.
Yeah,
Right?
because it's like, well, I'm not an expert in this, but
Yeah, I'll say whatever the hell I want. But it's like that valley of uncertainty, which is kind of interesting.
let's see.
The character generator simulator. I love it. There was a comic recently I saw on Reddit. It was something along the like, press start on the game, and then 40 hours later, it's like, all right, I have my character. Now I can play the game.
Yeah. I'm so bad about it. I'm just gonna say let's go so we can.
I saw a documentary about how a chemistry teacher can produce and sell meth. Didn't see the end, but I think it went okay. It was a documentary filmed in real time. My favorite review of all time for my general chemistry class is Ken is the Walter White of FSU chemistry.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, is that good? Is that a compliment or not? Because I would make more selling meth, but there's more risks.
Yeah,
So.
no, certainly. Okay, let's see. Should I have him go to college?
Oh. Where's your moral choice now?
Yeah. Nah, we're gonna go to colleges for chumps.
Yeah, kind of amateurs go to college. What does that ever do for you? Oh, man.
Okay, so there's no houses here.
Go to trade school? Absolutely.
Yeah, there is so far no Sims trade school
Oh,
expansion pack.
we should do predictions. We have not been doing enough of them fast enough. What do you want to do now?
You pick.
Which one do you want to talk about? Say that.
Okay,
'Cause this
we can
is
talk
sparkling.
something about streaming. I got a couple about streaming, but
Yeah, there's this one, Netflix.
let's talk about that first one because I've got a lot to say about it.
All right. This one's going to lead to discussions. If you guys aren't following, click the follow button, get your 300 standard internet units. We're going to ask you guys a question related to Arienne's expertise. We'll pop the question up there right now. Click the predict button and put your internet points towards one of these 2 answers. Ratings determine which shows are renewed, true or false. In terms of the parameters that primarily dictate whether a show is renewed, is the answer ratings. Ratings in this case refers to the number of people watching.
More or less, yeah.
More or less.
So we're not talking like Amazon ratings, like how many stars it has.
Yeah, just in terms of the raw viewership or number of views or total time viewed. A lot of parameters go into that, I imagine.
It's actually a really simple calculation. Households with TVs over, or how many people are tuned into a show divided by the number of households with TVs.
That's fair. All right. Ratings determine which shows are renewed. Throw your predictions in there or not. You do not get to use Google or ChatGPT to answer this question. Answer according to whatever you know at the time. Yeah, put your predictions in there right now. Do ratings determine which shows are renewed or not? Uh-oh. What just happened? You're selecting a career?
Yeah, I'm selecting a career. See what I
Astronaut
wanna
seems
be.
legit.
Oh, I could be a style influencer.
I see you're going the evil route. Instagram, are you a Redditor?
I think I'm an Instagram model.
One of my favorite subreddits is Instagram Reality, where they'll like put the actual person versus what they post on Instagram, and you just see the contrast in the editing.
Oh yeah.
No college, straight to Instagram. Absolutely.
I think that's what we're gonna do. Be a style influencer. Oh, I'm an apprentice of algorithms. What does that mean?
Go to trade school, but do not become a blacksmith. All we do is make bottle openers. No, bottle openers are useful. They serve a purpose.
I'm an engineer. I don't want to
More so than
know.
most of what we do.
We're gonna quit being an engineer and we're gonna be an Instagram influencer.
We got to go back to just chatting, maybe science and technology. We'll see. No college, straight to Instagram. All right. If you guys have, I got to say your name right. If you have any questions for Arienne Ferchaud, Ferchaud. I would not have guessed that pronunciation. I apologize.
Yeah.
Dr. Ferchaud is happy to answer questions on media psychology, emerging in media technologies, talking about media and how people perceive games and experience video games and how we study that behavior. She is happy to answer any questions you have while she plays Sims with her blue character with a green afro. Absolutely amazing. But yeah, if you guys have your questions, throw them in chat right now. All right, let's answer this question. Ratings determine which shows are renewed, true or false?
It's false. So if we think about traditional methods of how TV is made, right? Traditionally, ratings have been a big part of it, because ratings determine like the number of eyeballs that are on the TV at a given time. And that is great if you're an advertiser, right? Because you want to know exactly how many people are going to see your ad. And in the olden days, before we had any sort of channel or time shifting, I mean, if you're watching the show, you're watching the ad pretty much. So they want to know how many people are watching the ad. That has changed. They do still care a lot about ratings for kind of traditional TV shows. But when we're talking about the way the world is now, first of all, we don't watch TV the same way. So even if you're watching a show that's on whatever kind of broadcast network, it's not necessarily, you're not necessarily going to watch a day of, right? So for instance, I've been watching Abbott Elementary, really like that show. I don't have cable, so I watch it on Hulu the day after. That information can be incorporated, but it's not that simple sort of calculation I mentioned.
Yeah.
Additionally, when we talk about streaming, advertisers, who cares? You know, Netflix doesn't have any ads. Now they're talking about adding them.
Yeah.
Netflix got issues, right? But historically, they haven't had any advertisers. So who cares when somebody's watching it, or if they're watching something on Netflix as opposed to something else on Netflix? As long as they're watching Netflix, who cares? So how does something like Netflix decide what shows are going to get renewed? And this is actually a really big point of contention. We see people complain about this. Yeah, that's a really good show. You canceled it after a season. Why'd you do that? Because it's not that nobody was watching it. It's there's kind of two trains of thought here. How Netflix actually makes their decisions, unclear. They don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
They keep a lot of that under lock and key. But kind of speculatively thinking about it, thinking through it. On the one hand, if the show is not getting people to buy subscriptions or pay for subscriptions, then what's the point, right? The shows are expensive to make, and the only way they're making money is through subscriptions. So if people aren't getting Netflix to watch a show like Stranger Things, people will get Netflix to watch Stranger Things, right? Then it might not be worth it to keep it going. Another thing to think about is, so this is something that I actually read on Reddit, and it made a lot of sense. I would not be surprised if this was a part of it as well, is the completion rate. So let's say you have a show that is a lot of people are talking about, right? They're like, oh, this show is coming out. It's going to be really cool. And like 1 million people, that's not a lot actually, but millions of people watch the first episode, but then they realize, it's not really that great. And then they drop off, right? So you have a lot of people watching at first, but not finishing it. Then Netflix is like, well, we're not going to do another season because the people that are starting are not finishing, even if the numbers are higher. So it could be the case that you've got two shows. One show, fewer people tune into, but the people that are watching watch the whole show. On the other hand, you've got a show that more people are tuning into, but they're dropping off significantly, even if the end numbers are equivalent, right? Or even if the end numbers are still higher for the show people are dropping off, it's showing a downward trend.
Yeah.
So the raw numbers there, it's not necessarily the number of people who are watching, it's the number of people who watch the whole thing.
Let's see. They're extrapolating the data set and seeing where it's going to end up and whether it's worth.
Yeah.
That's intriguing.
Because it's also very expensive to make Netflix originals.
Yeah.
A lot of Netflix originals, well, I guess this goes to another one of our things. So maybe we don't
that's
wanna
fine.
get
We're
into
running
that,
out of time. You can deliver it.
So
we'll cross it off.
a lot of Netflix originals aren't made by Netflix in the first place. They are shows that Netflix has gotten the rights to, like exclusive rights to. So for example, The Great British Bake Off is a Netflix original. Netflix did not make that show. Those shows are easy because they're cheap.
Yeah. All reality shows. That's why they love them, right?
Well, it's not just the reality show aspect of it. It's the fact that somebody already made it.
Yeah.
So they don't need to make it. An example of this is, this is like some Nordic drama or something. A lot of their foreign language stuff is this. Not Squid Game, but like some of the other ones are just stuff that they've purchased rights to. It's a reason that they're moving to do that a lot more is because it's much cheaper to do than to create a show. And I lost my train of thought after that. That's as far as I got in my brain.
No worries. We'll catch up on some comments here. If they put ads on Netflix, I'm definitely quitting academia. Well, when they do the password protection, you can't watch it at work anyway. So
I kind of think they're going to roll it back. They've already kind of rolled it back.
I mean, man, we'll see. They're trying.
I think what happened is that they were like, yeah, we're totally going to do this. Great idea. Everybody's going to love it. And then when everybody's like, I'm canceling my Netflix. I think people were actually canceling. I think it was more than just like...
I'm sure they saw actual numbers because there's been threats to cancel every step of the price raise and it never happens. But
and so I think that's when they were like, oh, just kidding. That was for Latin America, not here. All right.
Oh, man. Brutal. I was just going to ask, how many of us are still paying for Paramount Plus because I haven't finished Yellowstone, but this month I'm sure I will, just like last month.
I have my sisters, I have two sisters and between the three of us have everything.
Yeah.
So one of the sisters has HBO. I'm watching Last of Us. I'm not paying for that.
It's so hard to pay for a streaming service for one show. Like,
it has to be a real good show, and then I'll probably cancel after.
How many shows have died on Apple Plus because nobody wants to
Which is unfortunate because I've heard Apple Plus has had some severances.
Severance is one, and we don't have Apple Plus, but we watched it. Somehow we figured out a way. Off the record. Severance. What was the other one? Mythic Quest. Have you seen that one?
I've heard of it, but I haven't.
Developer. You might appreciate that from the video game lens.
And Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso is another one. Yeah. No, it's a tough battle. Oh man, we're talking shit about Chris Pratt and Mario.
Oh dear.
Yep. I thought this was a safe space where all Mario. We all love all Marios. Mythic Quest and Ted Lasso, absolutely. Oh, Brett's on right now. So Brett, I started listening to what is the book you suggested? Dodd. I don't remember the name of it off at the top of my head, but I just started listening to it. So thank you for the suggestion. Kind of fun. Basically, magic is real and exists in the space of quantum mechanics. So we talk a lot about sci-fi stream, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
All right. Dodo. Yeah, sorry, Dodo. I don't remember what the acronym stands for. They just introduced it as far as I am in the book. All right, should we do one more prediction? So at 10:30, we're going to switch over to NARC.
Okay.
We're going to close out the night if you're ready for that one. So you have 12 minutes to do as much damage to your sim character as possible.
Oh, okay. Maybe I should. Okay.
All right.
The prediction. Maybe do the game of the year one.
Rise and Fall. I'm assuming you were putting a link there. Sorry, we have the Twitch filter that's not going to allow that. Here's a link to the book that I'm listening to right now. The Department of Diachronic Operations. Time trial. It's a fun book. It's as long as you abandon the sci-fi as we talked about, you accept certain premises. Some sci-fi books are really fun.
Okay, I'm gonna drown him.
You don't have to.
No, I might as well.
Moral choice
I know why people come to see The Sims.
That's why the viewers are coming for it.
Got to give the people what they want.
But yeah, if you guys have any questions for Arienne Ferchaud.
Fasho.
God, I've tried writing it out several different ways. I don't know how to phonetically spell this. Your time as an English major might have been helpful. Ferchaud. If anyone read that and pronounced Ferchaud, I'm impressed.
I think you would have to be a French speaker.
Yeah. I think it's a very specific French spelling, which is kind of amazing. But yeah, if you guys have any questions about media psychology, emerging media technologies, how we interact with media, how our decision making is dictated by the medium we interact with, things like we've talked about video games and comic books and how we perceive those. Also, a pretty lengthy discussion on Marvel and the origins of that universe, which is kind of fun. Umbrella Academy, we could dive back into that one. I'm intrigued. You're editing a book related to Umbrella Academy. I'm
so excited about it.
Can I ask what the origin of that name is? Is it French?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm from Louisiana. Yeah, but even in Louisiana, it's an uncommon name, so people have trouble with it there too.
So like every classroom you ever went to, like the teacher just bastardized it. Did anyone get it right?
I think like the only people when I was growing up was my French teacher. Mm-hmm. And then now the only person I ever get to right is the director of our school because he's French.
And it's Ferchaud.
Fasho.
Even with French, I read it as Ferchaud. I don't know how to phonetically spell that out. That one right there.
I don't know. It means hot iron. So there you go.
My mama's from Baton Rouge.
Oh,
I'm new to the stream.
I was born in Baton Rouge.
New to the stream. What is the cutting edge research in your field? What are the biggest topics?
Oh man. Well, I guess depends on how you define my field. It's one of those things with I guess all PhDs that actually what they study is really super narrow. And for me, I like the work that I am doing on moral decision making, for instance. There's not a lot of people doing that. And there's not like a lot of people doing streaming work, like work on TV streaming. There are some that are not me, of course, but it's just not like super broad with a lot of people doing stuff. So I don't know. Guess I like to think that I'm doing cutting edge research. But my work I'm doing is in new and emerging media technologies as they relate to entertainment. So I do a lot of work on video games. I do a lot of work on TV streaming. Right now I'm waiting on this sim to drown. He is oddly
he's resilient.
Really resilient.
That's the quote of the night. I'm waiting on this sim to drown. Talking about moral decision making.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Miss Dim is actually my wife watching from the other room right now.
Oh.
It's kind of fun. But yeah, she used to play Sims a lot and used to like try to force people to get married and things. So
Yeah. I mean, I always start off where I'm like, I'm going to be really good and we're going to go through your career and I'm going to do any cheating. I'm just going to go straight through. And then after a while, I'm like, this is taking too long. And so I'm like, let me get some money. But then I reach the top of the career and I'm like, oh, this is boring. Let's start over. So, and you go to the pool.
Also, I need to hear more about Umbrella Academy.
Okay.
I mean, so you're editing a book right now, so you do a call for chapters from various individuals.
Yes.
And this is broadly defined, like the psychology of Umbrella Academy. Are you interpreting characters or how people perceive them? What's the...
So the name of the book is The Psychology of Umbrella Academy. It's part of a larger series on the psychology of popular culture. So there's some other books out that they're working on, like The Psychology of the Witcher, The Psychology of Discworld. There's one, I think that's The Psychology of the Mandalorian. And so, yes, you're exactly right. So I was asked to edit this one in particular because I know the series editor and we've talked about Umbrella Academy and stuff like that. And so it was, I sent out a call that was like, hey, Psychology of Umbrella Academy, this is what the show's about. Write us some abstracts. And we got some that are really, really interesting. So some of them are about like the family as a whole. Some of them are about specific characters. Like we've got a chapter on the narrative of Vanya transitioning to Victor. We've got a chapter about Klaus and his cult. We've got a chapter about Five and his relationship, his parasocial relationship really with Dolores the mannequin. So we've got some on specific characters, but we've got some that are like about family relationships and trauma bonding and the fact that this family is bonded really through trauma. We've got a chapter on the roles people take in damaged families, essentially. Like I forget off the top of my head what these different roles were, but it comes from like family psychology kind of area.
And so some of these are an analysis of like how well the show captures reality,
yes,
or how well it represents. Okay.
So there's kind of, the way I was seeing it is examples of psychology, I suppose, or psychological concepts in the show, and then audience reactions to the show. So that's how I've kind of split it. And then I'm also contributing a chapter that's about the idea of how, so there's this concept in media effects called, or this theory rather, called affective disposition theory. And what it suggests is that we like characters that are good. We don't like characters that are bad. And we like when good stuff happens to good characters. We don't like when good stuff to happen to bad characters and vice versa. It was then sort of revised to say, but we privilege the protagonist. So if the protagonist is doing bad stuff, we justify it. So they're good because they're the protagonist.
Yeah.
But with a show like Umbrella Academy, first of all, you've got 7 protagonists and they act in opposition to each other a lot. So particularly in season 1, for example, this character of Vanya winds up kind of being the antagonist of the show. But she's still a protagonist in a way. So you've got all these different points of conflict. And so the argument I'm making there is that the context does matter and contextual factors change everything about narrative processing. So it's gonna be fun. Right now we're in the writing stage. So all of our authors are hard at work on their various chapters, and I am so excited to get them.
Huggy Klaus relationship from his time in the war is heartbreaking.
It was.
Spoilers. Yeah, it's okay.
So, I mean, the question of who has the most interesting character, there's 2 of them that it kind of depends on which season we're talking about. If we're talking about season 1, 100% it's Klaus and Five are, I think, the most compelling. And of course, this is all, depends on who you talk to, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's pretty common Five and Klaus. Second season, though, I think Allison's stuff is really compelling. She's been sent back in time. I was really hoping somebody would submit a chapter on like transracial adoption, but nobody did. But she is sent back in time. All her siblings are fine, right? Because they're all white except for Diego, and he's kind of white passing.
Yeah.
But she is black, and she's in Dallas, and instantly is like, you are a second class citizen, and she has to navigate that that world. So I actually think her story in season 2 is really, really compelling. Then when we get to season 3, you know, it's hard to say who the most compelling is there, because you've got this whole other family too. So that complicates things even more.
And so you've read the entire comic book series?
I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you know where this is going, or have they deviated?
No, I don't, because it's deviated pretty significantly.
Okay.
So the first season sort of very, very roughly, very loosely follows the first volume of the comics. It's called the Apocalypse Suite. The second season sort of very, very loosely follows the Dallas arc, because again, they do get sent back in time. And then season 3 is Hotel Oblivion is the third volume, but it's not. It's so different. It's basically in name only the same. So at that point, we start to really, really deviate. You must spend so much time dealing with IRB. More than you, I'm sure, but thankfully, most of my work gets through pretty quick.
So I have an IRB-proof study actually on Gen Chem testing analysis. That was my first time having to do IRB of any kind, actually. So it's just looking at statistical outcomes and tests. It's not hard, but you still have to get approval because it's human data and things like that. So it's pretty easy as long as they don't have identifying characteristics. But speaking of antagonists, your sim is still alive.
I cannot believe this.
We're at 10:30. It is time for NARC. Are you ready to make the transition to the next game? No,
I can't believe
we
he's
can
still
leave
alive.
this running in the background.
Yeah.
And we'll come back to it.
Let's come back to him, see if we can kill him. I just need to speed it up. That's what I needed to do.
All
but
right,
it's okay.
ladies and gentlemen, anyone that's not familiar with the channel, we have a tradition here on Ask a Scientist Gaming where our guests get to play a very particular game called NARC. And we have our guests race in this game. So it is a terrible bargain bin game for the Nintendo Entertainment System. It is about winning the war on drugs.
Oh, Lord.
And it is terrible. So I apologize ahead of time that you have to play this game. But yes, we're going to play NARC. Nintendo controller. We're back to the retro game.
All right.
I think this is a 1986 release. Also, we time everyone that plays it. So heads up, you are competing against your colleagues, but you have infinite lives, infinite rockets, infinite bullets, and you will beat this game.
Okay.
No matter what. So go ahead and press start. IRB is its internal review board. Is that what it is?
Institutional review board.
Institutional review board. Any human testing has to go through that.
Yep. So anything, any kind of, sometimes when we're doing like kind of more content analysis based stuff.
So I'm going to interrupt just to give you context on this game, just because, you're against the clock. Your goal is basically to go right and find doors. So there's no advantage in killing any of these characters other than they slow you down as you go forward. And so, the speed run, you don't really kill anyone. And so a few notes on the buttons. If you tap A, it's a rocket. If you hold A, it's bullets. If you tap B, it's jump. If you hold B, it's squat. So they managed to turn 2 buttons into 4 buttons via that mechanism. So you're going to grab that card and then go to the right, and you'll find a door at the end. Yeah, don't worry. You have infinite lives. You're fine. You will beat this. You might have to kill some dogs along the way. I apologize. I didn't give you a heads up on that. But all right. If anyone has questions, throw them in the chat right now. We're talking media psychology. We're talking Umbrella Academy. We're talking about how people perceive video games and moral choices they make. Speaking of which, you are a drug enforcement agent trying to win the war on drugs. So you did not expect this one happening tonight, but we play this bargain bin game every single time. Written and coded by Nancy Reagan.
What?
No. I'm just kidding.
Didn't know she had those.
She does not. She only goes on TV and complains about drug use. Oh man, we can start the DARE program and complain about all that, but we're not going to. We're going to instead answer some questions here. Wolfanaut wants to know, do you study the Proteus effect at all? I think I remember that correctly from my coursework. What is the Proteus effect?
The Proteus effect, I don't study it, but I am familiar with it. So the Proteus effect basically says, let me try to see if I get this right. Proteus effect, the way that your avatar looks, you tend to act in such a way that is in line with that. So that includes things like, so there's some work that people have done on like, I don't have to.
Identifying with your avatar.
Yes, but it's not just that. So it's, where is this?
So if you hold both buttons, you can shoot the dog. And then you're going to shoot these guys wearing black at close range, and they'll drop a key card.
I mean, can you drop it?
So it's an RNG, unfortunately.
Ugh.
This is the worst part of the speedrun, actually.
So, it's not just
Oh, there you go.
Oh wait, I'll pick it up.
Just move to the right. Hitboxes are
Oh, there we
weird.
go.
You hit the key card slot. A little further right.
Oh my gosh, it's so finicky.
It's a jank game. I apologize.
So it's not just identifying with the avatar. It's really you embody the stereotypes involved. So, some of the work that the work that goes into it has shown that, like, for instance, when people are playing as a woman, they tend to act more caring and maternal. So it's really in line with stereotypes, as I said. Or even something like, if you wear dark colors, because that's seen as like more of an evil thing to wear dark colors versus light colors, you act more in line with that.
So you can jump in the car if you tap B.
Come on.
There you go.
Whee! Oh, there we go.
But,
Aw.
yeah, sorry. Unless you memorize the pattern, you're kind of screwed in the car. But anyway, sorry, dark colors versus light colors, it affects your choices, your outcomes.
So a lot of the work in Proteus Effect, they've looked at like MMOs and stuff like that, and how people act in MMOs. But the way your avatar looks will have an impact on behavior. Well, it tends to have an impact on behavior.
And that's called the Proteus effect.
Yes.
That's pretty fun.
I used to at some point know why it was called the Proteus effect. How do I
tap B? You'll jump over it.
Oh, there we go.
The saunter, the NARC
I know.
saunter.
Can he at least jog? Come on, man.
No, this is his only speed. Well, you can go slower if you like. He's not particularly good at his job.
Just jump.
All right, Texan Space Agency wants to know, why do we death scroll?
Like doom scrolling? Is that what you mean?
Doom scrolling, presumably.
Oh, well, there's a few things. I don't have an exact answer for you, but I can say kind of off the top of my head, maybe what I think. Part of it is that we do have a negativity bias. And so negativity bias is we tend to remember information that's negative more than we remember information that is positive. I also, so on one sense, we retain in that information more. And it just becomes a smaller dog somehow when you shoot it.
This game's so unrealistic.
Oh my. So part of it, I think, is that I think also, and again, this is what you're talking about when you're a little bit close, but a little bit far off.
Yep.
Where I'm caveating the hell out of this.
Yeah.
Okay, jump in.
So if you stay on the bottom, you're okay for the rest of the level.
Like down here?
Yep.
All right.
Well, you'll die here, but it'll get you pretty far. Sorry.
Yeah, so you gave me false hope.
And then you go down, and then, There's one more card, don't worry.
So the other thing that I would say, I think, is probably, it's almost like a sunk, not a sunk cost thing, but it's like, surely something will be all right. The more I scroll, right, something eventually will be all right.
Yeah.
But I have no data to say that. That's just my thought.
Well, I was just listening, and I thought when you said, and it becomes a smaller dog when you shoot it, as some wild metaphor about scrolling negativity.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, you got to work that in a paper at some point.
Aw.
Oh, no.
You didn't help me that time.
I'm sorry I missed it. I'm watching the lag on the screen, unfortunately. All right, Stib wants to know, given that you're involved in popular media, do you write for cultural media versus academic sources too? Do you blog? Do you YouTube?
Okay.
Do you...
So I have appeared in some of that popular stuff. I don't regularly blog or YouTube or anything because I don't know what do I really have to say. Maybe I do have things to say, but I'd like to spend my time actually doing more sort of creative writing type stuff when I have the chance. But I've done interviews with people that do that kind of thing. Like I've talked with folks for The Verge, for example, and I've gone to PAX East, which was an incredible experience. It was really, really fun. We talked about parasocial interaction. And I mean, to a packed room. Really fun. But
Texan, I'd listen to what you have to say, just don't go shooting dogs.
okay, I won't.
Does your NARC gameplay translate to reality? we talked about that earlier. The answer is no.
And so
Likely no.
yeah. So and then oh gosh, well, now there's clowns,
Clowns with knives.
knife clowns. It's like John Wayne Gacy over here. So then I've also been on a couple of podcasts and stuff like that. I streamed with someone one time. So with gosh, what's the name of that thing? Okay. Oh, there I am.
So you're going to the far right. I didn't even coach you through that. You went to the last door.
You just said look for doors. So I just
Yeah.
like looked for
So you're
doors.
going to get that card and you're going to press up, but don't press up too hard or you'll go back through the door twice. So press up enough to get through and go left.
Oh, okay.
And there's the silver card slot.
Oops.
Oh.
No.
So you have to go through a door again
Oh,
at the end.
that's not even the same door.
Nope. Now you get the clowns.
Like there was one of my favorite ones that I've done is it was a stream. Oh my gosh, Geeks Like Us, I believe it's called, and they it was this guy Randall Hampton, and so we would talk about Umbrella Academy, and he drew. So it was a drawing stream. So he drew a scene from Umbrella Academy while we talked.
Oh, that's his thing. He draws while
Yeah.
in the interview. That's
Yeah,
fun.
it was really cool. I'm like, man, I wish I could draw.
Well,
It's like one of those skills I wish I had and I don't.
but also drawing while engaging with the conversation.
I know,
is
it's
not true.
incredible.
You're going left on this one.
What is this, like weed plants
Yes.
that I'm hitting?
Yeah.
And they
Careful.
harm me somehow
Some are laced with explosives. You know,
as one does.
realistic game. So you're gonna have to shoot those Rambo-looking guys with bullets, and one of them is gonna drop a green card. So you'll have to kill
this lady?
that one. I don't remember what that one's called.
What?
Yeah, rockets blows people up. So this is one of the original games. It was originally for the arcade. This is one that started the like violence in video games craze. It was like this and Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, oh, I do know about Mortal Kombat. It's the whole reason we have the ESRB.
Yep. So this was part of that original discussion. You know, you blow things up, you shoot dogs, so on and so forth.
Oh, I got
All right.
exploded by a weed plant.
So yeah, you're gonna do bullets on the Rambo guys. Rockets, they won't drop a card for some reason, because that's the way the program goes.
Oh my god.
I remember less than half of this NARC content from 2 weeks ago. I guess that says something about the scotch we had. Absolutely. Brad, don't worry. I'll send you the speedrun tutorial, so next time you're on, you will hammer through. Here, actually, I'll do it right now. It's rid of. This is the most elaborate video I've made on YouTube, and it's a NARC speedrun tutorial.
Oh man.
Fun factoid for you is I am the former world record holder in speedrunning this game.
Are you really?
Yeah, it started as a joke on the stream, and then somebody challenged me to speedrun it, and then I did, and I committed to actually being good at it. So,
Oh wow.
yeah. I don't
Why
know.
did they help me better on the car?
Put that on your annual review. I forgot.
Oh yeah.
Evidence of performance. I absolutely should.
I just got stabbed to death by a
Public
clown.
engagement. Yeah. I have a transient absorption video has
Oh, God.
10,000
You
views.
got
but
run
you're
over
right.
by
My
a
NARC
car.
speedrun should definitely be on that
Oh my
list.
god, no. Oh.
All right.
Oh, this clown. I getting stabbed, I getting run over on the sidewalk.
All right, anyone, if you have questions, we have 18 minutes left on the stream. Our guest is Arienne Ferchaud.
Fasho.
God, A. How do you write a long A in phonetic spelling?
I know.
Ferchaud. Arienne Ferchaud is happy to answer your questions on media technology. Yeah, feel free to throw your questions in chat. Does this thing on my back look infected?
You know, I'm not a medical doctor. I just can't help you with that one. You know, my nephew did dunk on me one time. He was like, I was like, because both his parents are physicians.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, I'm a doctor. And he's like, no, you're not.
You're not a real doctor.
I'm like, I am. And he's like, yeah, but no, you're not. And I'm like, I swear to you, I am. And he's like,
So you have this card. You can do this one.
Oh, I do.
Way.
I have it already.
Yep. I mean, that's the opposition Jill Biden is facing right now. She shouldn't use the title doctor,
you know.
right?
I'm like, look, we had it first.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
that's exactly what I say. We were doctors when you were still in like barbershops cutting up people.
I know, you
Like,
were a barber surgeon. We were already doctors.
Show some respect for doctorate of philosophy, which is longer bearing. Huggy Beer, I don't know if we answered your factoid question. They requested a factoid. Do you have a knowledge bomb you want to drop on the
I feel like I've dropped a few. I can do the one about my cats if you want.
Yeah, let's do that one. Let's do that.
Okay, I have 2 cats and they are named.
You have the card.
I have it. Where did I have it?
These are the original cards that you picked up.
Oh, how was I supposed to know that?
You're not. I'm not coaching you through this.
You're
well,
not.
But no worries.
I'm supposed to be
You're on
everybody
base.
else.
We're good.
Okay. Yeah, I have 2 cats, and their names are Selena Kyle and Azula. And I thought I was very clever with that Selena Kyle one.
Selena Kyle is from Veep?
Nope.
No. Where's that from?
DC. She is
Oh,
Catwoman.
Yeah, Catwoman. I should know that.
Yeah.
Michelle Pfeiffer. Come on.
Yeah. And when I got Azula,
Huggy
she's a
Bear,
kitten still. She's 8 months old. When I got her, my older nephew was like, you should name her Felicia Hardy because that's the black cat in Marvel.
Yeah.
And the reason I didn't is because I have a coworker named Felicia. And she's like
Make it
deathly
awkward.
afraid of cats. So I was like, nah.
And I'll follow that up with a factoid. When my wife and I got our first pair of 2 cats, we named them Gozer and Vigo.
Oh.
Do you know what those are from?
Yeah, Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters 1 and 2, the bad guys.
Yeah. I just saw Ghostbusters 2 again recently.
Has it aged well? I haven't seen it in a while.
It's fine, yeah. It's fine.
All right. Good enough. All right, so now we're coming on to the first stage of the boss, and what you're going to need to do is shoot the guy in the wheelchair with a rocket.
Okay. This guy.
Yep, this guy.
Well, how do I do
Shoot.
rockets?
Tapping A.
Okay.
Should I have given you more of a heads up on this game?
That's fine. There we go. Now what?
Now he goes away.
Well,
and
he
gonna have
just
to shoot.
wiggle worms away.
He inchworms off the screen, and you're going to do that twice more.
He's gonna come back with a new wheelchair?
Yes.
What? Who's he supposed to be?
The squad and shoot. That's the drug lord. That's Mr. Big.
Okay.
So he's the kingpin of all drugs in this particular universe of gameplay.
All right. And he is apparently some
Wheelchair
kind
bound.
of, but also not like rockets.
Rockets
hurt
are his
him.
weakness. Bullets don't hurt him at all. Like rockets are his only weakness.
Where? Oh, he left. Come on.
Vince Clortho, the Keymaster. Ghostbusters 2 had a great soundtrack for younger me. I agree.
The thing about Ghostbusters 2 is like they collectively were all like, yeah, that first movie didn't happen.
Like people were like, yeah, like it happened for a while, but supernatural stuff doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, it didn't exist. Despite, that giant marshmallow man.
Yeah, that was just a fluke. That couldn't happen again.
That was a collective hallucination, I think.
No, it's true. It just affected everyone.
Whoa, I just busted him.
Yeah, if you
So I
stand up-
cannot be murderous.
I mean, you want to be altruistic.
I mean, can I not murder the dogs?
No, the dogs, you don't have a choice.
Oh.
You have to rocket him for sure.
Rocket, go!
So you have 7 frames to tap A. So 7/60ths of a second will give you a rocket.
I'm just bust everybody, I guess.
Huggy Beer, I argued with my brother about Ghostbusters 2 being a classic. Since it's shown on AMC, I think it's technically a classic.
I think
now.
that's I think
Is
that's
that
the
criteria.
rule.
That's whatever they have rights to is classic.
Okay. B.
Well, you might actually want to shoot the blue guys. I think that's what trigger. Oh, never mind. There he is.
Come on, man. There we go.
Okay, stay over there to the left. He's going to drop a card. If that card goes off screen, you get soft locked and you're screwed.
Oh no. Okay. Come on, jump away from the dogs. Get out of
American
here.
movie classic. It's in the name. That is true. Speaking of classics, this is NARC, everyone. If you haven't played this game before, I strongly recommend it. It's an excellent game that captures exactly what the war on drugs is like. All right.
Murdering people.
Now we're on to phase 2 of the boss.
Okay.
So this one, you're going to have to go to the top of the screen, jump, shoot him in the hat. Yep. So on
What is... Oh,
So run
don't
to
eat
the
me.
right,
What is he spitting at me?
tongues. You know, the war on drugs. Yep.
How do I...
So on the way down, you're going to shoot a rocket. So you're going to walk away,
Why is the tongues like...
tap B to
Oh,
jump.
why is... Oh, because I'm holding it too much.
Yep, that's pretty close. You got to hit A a little bit earlier. It's a metaphor for lies. We'll say that's true.
Okay.
I mean, I think your next paper should be on NARC because, I mean, this captures something.
I wouldn't be surprised if I saw a paper
Oh,
about
there you
this. I
go.
got it. All right.
Oh man, if you have, so now you're going to just rocket him in the face. You don't have to jump anymore.
Oh, his glasses are gone.
Yep.
Ow!
So if you go to the top of the screen, he won't shoot you with those things.
Seems like he's shooting me.
You can get away. It's his hitbox. He's touching you right now.
How do I... Can I...
Jump,
Leave me.
jump, jump.
Leave me. Leave me up. Come on, man.
All right, jump, walk away, stay at the top, shoot a rocket without jumping.
Oh, no.
Tap. There you go.
Oh.
All right.
Whoa.
Now you're going to go towards the middle of the screen. You're going to turn around and shoot bullets at his vertebrae. All right, if anyone has questions on media psychology or emerging media technologies, now is your time to answer them while we're towards the end of the game. We have about 11 minutes in the stream, and it's not going to take you that long to beat this, so we'll get to revisit Sims and whether your character drowned or not.
Yeah.
So we're going to get some closure on that front.
Am I doing this right?
Yep. It's just the hitbox is very weird. It depends on what position he is and what your y-axis position. It is terrible. This is what takes the most effort in the... Well, it's one of the things that takes a lot of effort.
Oh, I've died again.
Yeah. If it makes you feel better, you're doing a lot better at this. You're clearly a gamer.
Oh, well.
'Cause-
This is what I was born and raised on. Yes.
Exactly.
Well, we had a Sega at our house,
The crippling NES controller.
which is why, yeah, I was like,
So you're going to
my
want to
mom
go
was
a little lower.
sad that we didn't get to do Lion King because I would have been bad at that.
I mean-
that game. Do you know they made it hard on purpose?
Yeah. Because Disney wanted...
Yeah, the Disney didn't want people to be able to finish it
Yeah,
in one
re-rentals.
rental, so they made it ridiculously hard.
Man, you accidentally found the perfect hitbox for those last two. If you go down a little bit, it'll be easy to hit those.
Gotcha.
Go right out the door. I mean, we still got 9 minutes left. So,
I mean, our sim should be drowned by now.
unless you want to play some Lion King,
We could, yeah. I think our sim will be dead. So
we can revisit it. And honestly,
yeah. Oh, so this is the best part of the war of drugs.
well, this is civil forfeiture of the level, so no due process here. Enjoy your collections. But you're on a speed run, so you should ignore all.
Oh, that's
and go
right.
To the end.
Speed running.
So as soon as you hit the door, I will stop the timer. 20 minutes and 11 seconds.
I don't feel like that was that fast.
Oh, that was pretty fast. Let's see where you sit on the spectrum of guests for the stream.
I have completed the NARC training mission. Oh, that was just the training mission.
Well, now you got to contact your
The DEA recruiter.
because you've clearly demonstrated your skill set.
Lord.
I've not updated, but you're ahead of all those. You are, I think you're top 5 on this.
Oh.
Maybe if you ignore me, I think you're top 5 on this.
Okay. That's pretty good.
Time. I mean, it goes up to like 39 minutes. So
I mean, if somebody would have helped me, part,
car would have saved you 15 seconds. So
yeah, I could have been right in there.
well, next time speedrun tutorial. All right, you want to do some Lion King?
Yeah.
We got some last minute Lion King.
Last minute Lion King.
Let's get rid of some NARC.
Because I'm sure it's gonna. This is as much time I need to get frustrated and rage quit. So.
Do you want infinite lives and invincibility?
Nah. See how far I can get.
It's totally up to you. That is one of the nice parts. We get to use cheat codes on it.
Lord, it's been so long since I've held the controller like this.
It starts.
Have you tried to contact the DEA yet?
Not yet.
None of my guests have. Unless Brett, you did. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Oh, I might have cheats on. Did you get hurt from that?
Oh, yeah, I did. I don't know. I didn't lose a life. Oh, nope. Roar. I think you got a roar for this part.
Man.
No, come on.
What made this game? Yeah, I have the cheat codes on. Do you want me to turn them off, or do you want to?
All right. We'll just do this then. I might actually be able to do something.
Brett did not count the D. I mean, you had a second career option according to the game NARC.
Yeah, I don't think the DA will want me.
The worst part of this game is the hitboxes are terrible.
They're
Can't
really
tell where
exact.
the edges are, and it's bad. That's a shortcut to get on a list. Calling the DEA. Hey, I played a video game where they said you'd offer me a job.
Yeah, I'm like, you just finished playing this video game, and they told, oh, god damn it. Okay.
All right, Vestib has a question. What's parasocial interaction?
Great question.
Is that something from your webpage?
So sorry about that. I kind of say things like assuming people know.
No.
Parasocial interaction or parasocial relationships is two related things. Oh my gosh. It's this idea that, on some level, evolutionarily speaking, because evolution happens really slowly, right? Our brains do not really know the difference. Oh, I don't know which way to go. They don't really know the difference between a real relationship, like you're talking to somebody in a room, or you are seeing them on TV or whatever. And so you actually react as though it is a real interaction. Like, let's say you're watching TV and, you see a pundit or like a newscaster. A lot of the original work was looking at newscasters, weirdly. Not weirdly, but I forgot about this. Get you. I'm gonna get you. No. See, it's a good thing I have cheats on. So
Everything the light touches is our
So we react that same way, right? So it's a one-sided relationship because they are able to speak to you, right? They're able to talk to you, but they're not. First of all, they're not really talking to you. They are, talking at you, and you are not able to respond. So you can't talk back. You can't. I mean, in some cases with parasocial interaction, they don't exist, right? So like a fictional character, for example, they don't exist. And so over time, the more interactions you have, just like in real life, that can build into a relationship. Oh, this is the hard one.
Yep.
Okay. So it can develop over time into an actual relationship where, well,
in the drink.
yeah. Uh-oh.
Did it freeze?
I think so. There we go.
Okay.
So and just like a real relationship too, we feel really distressed when those relationships end. So some of the work I've done is on what we call parasocial breakups. And if you want like a great example of this, you should watch reaction videos from the Red Wedding from Game of Thrones. Where people are experiencing this parasocial breakup and they're genuinely upset about it.
Yeah.
So that is what parasocial relationships are, and we first start seeing it in like around the 1950s or so. That's when people start doing work on it. So at that time, they didn't have an idea of what the media landscape would look like now. So, now we have like streaming, for example, where like what we're doing right now. And the idea there, this is pretty recent stuff, is that it's almost like a 1.5%, I guess, parasocial relation, not percent, but 1.5 parasocial relationship, because you can respond back, but it's still sort of one-sided and unequal in terms of the amount of interaction and things like that. So that's parasocial.
That's interesting.
Stuff.
So it is on a spectrum in this modern like Twitch streaming and OnlyFans. It's pseudo parasocial, but not entirely.
Yeah.
That's intriguing. Texan, did I develop a parasocial relationship with Stone Cold Steve Austin?
Maybe.
WWF Wrestling. John Cena also invoked. I was genuinely affected when a party member tragically died in my last D&D campaign.
Yeah. It's interesting. That's kind of, yeah, I did. That's an interesting one too, because when you're playing D&D, there's 2 layers to it. So you got your friend that you're playing with, but then you also have, look, now I'm dead.
Yeah. Well, it like wouldn't let you die because the cheat codes were going.
Oh, because it wasn't dying.
Yeah. So I turned off the cheat code. It let you die, and now you're back.
Yay. Okay. So. Oh no. Oh, it's still at 8. Okay. I forgot what's
D&D.
Yeah, so you have your friend. Obviously, that is a social relationship, but then you also have the character that they are playing as, and it could be your character, right? That you have a relationship with, even though you're kind of them. They're still kind of separate. Like my last D&D the last time I played D&D, it was like I was a smoke genasi. What was it? Rogue. And yeah, obviously, I'm not a smoke genasi rogue in real life. I was basically John Wick. It was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's there's a layer to it that's interesting with D&D or any kind of game like that, because you're playing with your friends, but they're also, they are also a different character, which I guess is true of any time you're playing a game with someone.
Yeah, Texan, I still see a friend that every week, but that character is gone. I also kind of hit me because I made a frantic attempt to save him and wasn't able to.
Oh yeah.
That's brutal. So do you remember these patterns?
No.
Or are you just kind of winging? Okay.
I'm just a little bit better at games than I was then.
It's funny like that, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I say, and then just go right into the water.
No worries. All right, it's 11 o'clock. I don't want to take too much more of your time. Do we want to check on the sim character?
Yeah, let's check on him. I think he's dead, but let's see.
All right, let's find out what happened to our sim. Close that guy. All right, should do a prediction on this. Is the sim character dead? Yes or no? No signal. Come on, computer. Did it go to sleep? We were on a watch together. The rest of the party was sleeping, and he was swallowed by a toad. A tragic way to go.
Okay. Oh, here we go. He's currently at work. He may not think well. Should he skip work? Yep. You have no choice. So apparently he didn't die because that came up.
So close.
So come on, man. No, this is. It's because I think he has a run out of energy. Him having to go to work saved him.
Oh.
So,
gentlemen, I'm sorry.
I thought he was going to be dead.
I'm sorry if anyone was disappointed. We did not kill a sim.
We didn't get to
moral reaction.
He's just enjoying the pool.
But it is 11 o'clock. If anyone has suggestions on people we should raid, Texan, I know you'll know a lot of people. If you have suggestions, throw them in chat. Otherwise, we'll find somebody, maybe a science related, maybe not. But it's always a pleasure. Thank you for joining us here on Ask a Scientist Gaming. Thank you for joining me. I send a cold email to a lot of my guests and say, do you want to play video games? And they show up to my house and they're willing to do this, and I really appreciate it. Thank you for joining me.
I had a great time.
It's been a lot of fun talking. It's been a lot of fun playing games and going through things. Any parting words for the audience?
Keep doing media stuff because it keeps me employed.
That's a good position to have. And thank you again. Keep joining us on Ask a Scientist Gaming. It's always a lot of fun. We enjoy the questions and the journeys we take. In less than 2 weeks, actually, we have a special stream. And so on Saturday, February 25th, I'm going to move my entire setup over to the Mag Lab, and we're going to do a live stream from the Mag Lab open house. So the National High Magnetic Field Laboratory in Tallahassee does an open house where they have all sorts of guests. 10,000 people go through there. They do different science exhibits and stuff. And it has a video game theme this time. And so their broader impacts person basically contacted me and say, are you willing to stream live? And I said, yes. So stupidly, I'm going to move this entire setup. Yeah, you see what's in front of you.
Yeah.
I have portable green screens. It's going to be interesting, but you guys should join us from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We are going to be at the Mag Lab Saturday, February 25th. And then we'll go back to our regular schedule the Wednesday after. So you should definitely join us for that. It should be interesting. I don't think I'm going to drink alcohol at the Mag Lab. So we'll see how the streaming goes. But thank you all for joining us. Stick around. We're going to raid some kind of education streamer of some kind. But again, until next time, we'll see you guys in a couple weeks.